Halloween
forever.
Steve, my boy, how are you?
I'm good, Brian. It's the first week of December.
Are you catching the Christmas feels yet? Are you catching some of that holly jolly spirit?
I'm getting kind of close. The homework for this episode helped.
Feeling a little tingly in your jingle bells, you know?
A little tingle in my jingle jangle.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got one for you. It's going to put you right in that Christmas spirit. All right. So there's this kid waiting in line to see Santa Claus at the mall. Right. Walks up, plops his ass on Santa Claus's lap. He says, "What's your name?" He said, "My name's Little Billy." He says, "All right, Billy, tell me what you want for Christmas." And he says, "First of all, I want a son of a bitchin' brand new baseball bat, and I want it ready for me underneath my bed. All right. I want a goddamn Xbox under my tree when I wake up in the morning on Christmas morning. And so help me God, you fat bastard, if you do not have a new goddamn bicycle in the garage waiting for me on Christmas morning, I'm going to be so pissed off. You understand me?" And Santa's just taken aback. He's like, "Oh my God, I've never had a kid talk like this before." He motions the parents over. He said, "What's going on with this kid? Where'd he get this sailor's mouth?" And they said, "We're so sorry, Santa. We're at the end of our wits here. I don't know why he talks like that. We don't know why he acts like that. We've tried everything. We're at our wits' end." Santa thinks on for a second. He says, "All right, try this. On Christmas morning, everywhere that Billy expects to find what he asked for Christmas, you leave a big stinky dog turd. And that'll teach him that if he acts like this, he treats people like this, he's not going to get what he wants for Christmas." And he said, all right. We tried everything. We might as well give this a try." So they do that. They put the dog turds in all the spots. Billy wakes up in the morning on Christmas morning, flips over, looks under his bed, finds himself a nice big juicy dog turd. Runs downstairs, looks under the tree, 2 big dog turds under the tree. Runs out to the garage, unfazed, opens up the garage door, big steaming pile of dog turds. His parents walk out the door, say, they're feeling pretty self-satisfied in kind of a sarcastic tone. They say, "Hey, Billy, what'd you get for Christmas?" He said, "I think I got a goddamn puppy, but I can't find the motherfucker anywhere." Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a very festive showdown, Secret Satan episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Is that a long way to go for the punchline, Steve?
It's a long joke, and it doesn't have the same charm.
I thought I'd go long, because I usually do just little one-liners,
right, yeah.
So I figured, let's draw it out. Let's tell a story. Let's weave a tale.
I don't know. It just doesn't have the same charm as, the Norm Macdonald moth joke.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Dan in the Discord here says it was an essay. Listen, not everyone can be a winner. All right, Steve, I am going to point a finger at you and say you sold me on that pretty hard.
Yeah,
you got stiff on me.
They're good.
You got
they're good.
You stiffened up on me a little bit.
Fucking potato you on that one. I don't give a shit.
You did. Sold me. And I'm going to get you back for that. All right, guys, it's only up from here. Hey, Steve, hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
I hear a little rap tapping at the door. I think maybe we got a caroler over there. Let's see who it is. Open door, click. Oh no, it's actually our old pal, Anthony Del Vecchio they call this a movie podcast. Hey, Anthony, how's it going?
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Happy
thanks
holidays.
for joining us. We thought you were a whole lot of carolers. You're just one dang old movie guy coming over here to talk on the podcast. We appreciate your time.
Yep.
Just one old guy.
I promise not to sing, so.
Oh, all right. Fine. All right. Well, we'll get somebody to sing by the time we finish this episode up. Maybe a couple 2 Tree beers might lube up the old vocal cords. You boys sipping on a beer or two on this this lovely winter's eve?
Yes.
Yep.
What you got, Steve?
I'm drinking a beer that I haven't had in a long time, and I haven't had actually any beer from this brewery in a long time, but it's right in league with the holidays. I have from Rogue the Santa's Private Reserve Coffee Stout.
Oh, I didn't know they even still made that beer before, or made that beer anymore. It's been quite a while since I saw that one.
Yeah, I didn't know they were still like brewing and distributing out to this way, but yeah, this is the 2024 version made with the Portland Coffee Roasters. It's fine. It comes in at 6.7%. Yeah, it's fine. It's not blowing my socks off. It doesn't have a big enough coffee flavor for me, but it still has a nice coffee flavor. It's all right.
I feel like Rogue, once upon a time, was a big fan of the Morimoto hazelnut ale and all this stuff. And then over time, I do think that is the sentiment for me for a lot of the Rogue beers is it's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't they get bought by somebody, or maybe they closed some of their tap rooms or something?
I think they closed some tap rooms and they sold off some assets, but I don't know that they went under new management, because I still think they have their own distillery, and I think they actually moved into doing sodas and even weed beverages as well. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, that'll happen from time to time. Hey, Anthony, what are you sipping on over there?
I am sipping on. I cracked it open right before we got on. I got visited this week by my sister and my brother-in-law. They live in central Pennsylvania, so every time he comes down, my brother-in-law always manages to bring me a variety 4-pack. And I opened up a New Trail Whiteout, the Hazy Double IPA. So
New Trail,
I really haven't gotten into it yet.
They do be out there all over central PA. It's crazy when I drive out there for work or whatever. I go into a Sheets and they've 6 different new beers from New Trail. I'm always blown away by how many IPAs they release on a monthly basis. Whereabouts in central PA? Let me see if I can guess the town, because I've been in every goddamn little tiny town all over the state of Pennsylvania. Give me just a random, is it north of State College? Is it south of State College? Do you know the location of this town?
It's northeast of State College.
Northeast of State College. Is it close to Williamsport? Is it Williamsport?
It's not Williamsport, but it's close to Williamsport. Yeah.
Is it Snowshoe?
Is not Snowshoe.
Damn it.
Is it oh boy, what's the name of that town? Is it Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania?
Not Jim Thorpe.
All right, I give up. What is it?
It is Mifflinburg.
Mifflinburg. Okay. That was my next guess, was Mifflinburg. I have been to Mifflinburg. All right, guys. Listen, I'll give you a guess, Steve. I'll give you 2 guesses what beer I'm drinking. One of them don't count.
Okay. Shiner Cheer.
No.
Pilsner Urquell.
I just slowly start bringing it up into screen. I am drinking Pilsner Urquell. Always a safe bet, especially around the holidays. I really like Pilsner Urquell around the holidays. Second only to summertime, and then third to fall, and then also I drink a lot of it in the spring. So those are the main times I drink this beer. Oh, that's all the times in the year. That was right. Here's the question that I don't think you're going to get. I said I'm drinking on some Zoa, because the Rock says.
Right, Rock says.
What flavor Zoa am I drinking?
Blackberry? Is that a flavor? I don't drink Zoa, so I don't know what the flavor is.
You never had a Zoa?
No.
Good God. No, I'm drinking wild orange. I'm drinking on a wild orange over here just now. Although I did have my first sip of the holiday punch. It's called it's called Duanta's Holiday Punch, like Santa,
God.
blame Santa.
Yeah. Oh God. It does
Which gives me And it actually has a picture of him like doing the people's eyebrow and flexing on the can. It's tremendous, and it's delicious.
And is this in conjunction with the Red One movie that just came out as well?
It doesn't have anything to do with Red One, like on the packaging, but it is Red Punch.
Right. And
it does have a picture of The Rock on it. So you could argue that there is a connection, but it is not branded with the Red One in any, way, shape, or form. But I have been asked by a lot of people whether I'm going to go see that movie. And my answer is I'd rather die. But I might see it once it comes to streaming because it looks fucking atrocious. Anthony, I feel like you, of the three of us, a person who might spend money, maybe out of a morbid curiosity, to see that movie, it might be you.
Yeah, I think ordinarily, maybe. I'm not the biggest Dwayne Johnson fan. Mm-hmm. I don't know who would be the biggest Dwayne Johnson fan. I don't know, besides Dwayne Johnson.
Damn it. I was taking a sip.
Beat you to punchline. Listen, I'm a big Dwayne Johnson fan. I'm just not necessarily a big fan of his movies. I'm more of a fan of his wrestling career. And Steven made me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies, and it almost killed me.
Yeah.
We have a resident Fast and the Furious fan on our podcast, and it is not me. I haven't seen I've seen Too Fast, Too Furious. We covered that on the podcast, and that is the only one I've seen. So
I think you guys are missing out. You really should let Mark give you just one of the really atrocious ones. You should just watch 10. You should skip all the way to 10. Fuck everything else. Skip to 10.
No, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. And by do the work, I mean, it's essentially the equivalent of playing Russian roulette, because you may just go lay down in traffic and drink bleach if you try. But Steve made me watch all 10 of them. I had only seen the first one, not terribly dissimilar to your experience. I'd only seen the first one. He made me watch that one and then 9 more. And they are some of the most infuriating, longest movies I've I don't know. What's the longest one, Steve? I mean, they're all 8. Long.
It's either 8 or 10. And yeah, because they're both in that 2.5+ hour range.
Yeah, one of them was 240, and it felt like it was 6 hours long. I was struggling. It took me a week to watch it.
But our podcast has an unofficial rule that most of the movies we cover have to be 2 hours and under. It's not written in stone, but we usually give anybody hell for picking a movie that's over 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't have that. I notoriously don't have that attention span. Speaking of the old podcast, why don't you tell us about your show, and so the folks can go check it out, because I got a sneaking suspicion they might like that show too.
Yeah, of course. We are They Called Us a Movie. We watch bad movies, cult movies, basically anything with kind of a cult following. And currently we've just released, a couple of weeks ago, we released our 300th movie review that we've done. And we are about to go into what I am off the cuff about to dub Netflixmas. We're doing Christmas movies all month long, starting December. And I think we just so happened that we found 3 Netflix Christmas movies that are worth watching this year. So if you were anticipating watching the Hot Snowman movie, we are going to cover that this coming month.
I'm excited to hear you guys talk about that, because we did talk briefly about Hot Frosty. And have you? I assume you have not watched it yet.
Have not watched it yet. Even though my wife is itching to watch it.
Yeah, my wife and I sat down and watched it. I will, spoiler alert, we did not get through it. I do intend to watch the rest of it, but I did laugh so hard at one moment that I thought for a moment I was going to vomit. I was laughing so hard, and I told Steve about the particular moment, and I have a sneaking suspicion you will immediately identify what I'm talking about. So I'm eager to hear you listen all about that.
Yeah. And our socials, if you want to check it out, TikTam Pod on Instagram and Threads. We are moving away from X because it's a hellscape. And then TikTok on the They Called Us a Movie. And probably will wind up on Blue Sky in the next few weeks or so.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Steve kind of abandoned the X because it was disintegrating into a cesspool. It already was, but it just turned into like just a primordial steaming pile of goo. So we jumped on that shit. But yeah, same thing. You could check us out on Instagram. Y'all know where to find us. Put a Halloween is Forever in one of them search engines and say Twitter. Or, well, I just said don't check us out on Twitter, but Instagram or Facebook or the Tiki Talkies or whatever. If you want to send us one of your emails at HalloweenIsForeverPod@gmail.com, you can certainly do that as well. All right. Real quick, before we jump into these movies, and let me just toss this out here. So if yins are listen to this, and maybe you're doing a little 2-screen situation, and you're looking to pop a movie on in the background or something like that, we are about to discuss in our Secret Satan Showdown, the mean one from 2022 versus Better Watch Out from 2016 versus Deadly Games from 1989, aka Dowdco's Santa Claus, aka Game Over, aka Hide and Freak, aka 3615 Code Pere Noel. But before we get into that, happy holiday ruckus there, Steve, why don't you tell the boys and girls how they can support us over on a Patreon?
Yeah, you jump on that Patreon, right? And you give us $5 and we give you a whole bunch of stuff. All that bitching Brian just got done doing about watching 10 Fast and the Furious movies, we put that to good use. I didn't just make him watch it.
That's true.
Re-recorded probably 20 to 25 hours of podcast about all those movies. And
more than that, because we were averaging like 3 hours per episode.
It's like 2 to 3 hours for an episode. So Brian could get all his frustrations out. So Brian could try to work through the idea of John Cena committing suicide with a car. It was a confusing.
The whole thing reads, it's some of the episodes were very, very funny, but having listened to a couple of them in retrospect now, they read a little bit like a therapy session.
Yeah. They read like you're losing your mind.
But if the therapist, which would be you, was like poking me with like a hot poker instead of like just listening. Yeah.
It's more like I was a jigsaw type in which I inflicted some sort of punishment on you for some reason.
Yeah.
But then also tried to work you through it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was sadomasochism at its finest.
Yeah. But jump on the Patreon and you get all 10 of those episodes with $5, and you get the 7 episodes of the current series Youth Group is Forever, where we go through all sorts of Christian horror. And boy, is that also just fucking nonsense and different types of therapy for both Brian and I as we work through our fucking irrespective upbringings.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because I picked this as a, of course, revenge on Steve, but then it really turned into just like a trauma journey for both of us. So it's real fun. And we make fun of some unbelievably stupid movies and just think up bad things that we hope happen to the filmmakers. So go check that out. And then also you can join us here in the Discord as we record live and interact with us as we record live and do all kind of fun stuff like that as well.
Yep.
Okie dokie, guys, it's about that time to throw down for our Secret Satan Showdown, which we do every December. So I'll remind you, if you haven't been catching up, this is how this son of a bitch and thing works. We gave our patrons from our AK or Patreon subscribers an opportunity to first gift specific movies to specific people. And then through some other just suggestions that were maybe just generally for the group. So I was tasked with a specific movie. So I was given a specific gift by, not coincidentally, our friend Dan, who's in the Patreon or in the Discord right now. And he tasked me with watching, discussing, and defending a little movie from 2022 called The Mean One. So I will be talking about that. And then Anthony and Steve ended up drawing from the gift pool, if you will. Anthony is going to talk about Better Watch Out from 2016. And then Steve is going to talk about 1989's Deadly Games, aka Dial Code Santa, aka Game Over, aka Hide and Freak, aka 3615, code Pere Noel. And I will not refer to this movie without delivering all of its proper commercial names.
Yeah. Yes, much the same way as Halloween Puppy gets all of its proper titles from you.
Halloween Puppy, aka a Magic Puppy, aka Magic Halloween Puppy, aka Puppy Halloween, or something like that. All right. So because Anthony is, of course, our guest, and because, more to the point, our patrons actually won our showdown for the month of November, Anthony, being the proxy in their place as a guest, gets to choose the order in which we discuss these movies. So, okay. Anthony, thoughts on how we should break this up?
Okay, so I was doing some thinking. I feel like the mean one is going to be a very interesting conversation. Not to say the other ones aren't, but I think it could be a pretty polarizing discussion. So I want that to go last. I want that to go third.
Okay.
And I'm not prepared enough to go first. So I'm going to say, Steve, go first, and I will go second.
Sure. Okay. All right. I appreciate your candor in terms of how you're going to lay out the positions here. So with that said, Steven, good luck. Godspeed. In discussion of 1989's Deadly Games, a.k.a. Dial Code Santa Claus, a.k.a. Game Over, a.k.a. Hide and Freak, a.k.a. 3615, code Pere Noel.
Yeah. Great. This is a Home Alone ripoff by way of the French. And I would
It's actually, interesting enough, the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it technically is, but it still feels like a Home Alone ripoff. How did they come up with this? It's also more of a ripoff of like all the action films of that era, because you see so much of like Die Hard and Rambo and the Predator in this film, except he's a little kid, which is, it's funny. Yeah. So it's funny framing for that. But yeah, Deadly Games, I only give it the one title, but I'll mix it up as I go. It was directed by René Manzor, and he's a relatively known French director, although I don't think he ever made a significant jump to like American cinema. He has like a couple episodes of The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones under his belt. He has a couple episodes of The Red Shoe Diaries. So nothing, super, super interesting. Couple episodes. He directed, an episode of the Highlander TV show. So, he did some work in America, but never really caught like on fire over here. But yeah, wrote and directed Deadly Games. And there's nobody terribly of note in the cast. I don't think you'll recognize anybody just from seeing them. Bridget Fossey playing the mom has a pretty extensive list of credits, and I'm sure if you look hard enough, you've probably seen her in other stuff. But yeah, again, not super well known.
This thing's French as fuck. I mean, from beginning to end, very, very French.
I will say, I was going to say, it is interesting, though, the kid, the actor who plays the kid, Alain Lelaine, which I think is how it's spelled. He's not much of an actor anymore, but he does visual effects.
Yeah.
And he is visual effects on huge movies. Like he recently did The Batman. He did fucking both of Zack Snyder's dumbass Rebel Moon movies. He did VFX on the Meg 2, The Trench. So I think a lot of his work is kind of making it acceptable for TV play in Europe, maybe. But still, he's still working in the industry and still working on huge products. So
yeah, I saw he also worked on The Revenant as well.
Right, yeah,
which is pretty cool. Love that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of what he does is because it says he's like a Scanline VFX producer, so I think he's working on the making sure like all the effects and everything play correctly when films are translated for like Europe, and so it looks good on their screens as compared.
Actually, I think the Scanline VFX is the name of the production house.
Is it?
I
Okay,
think so I just googled it. There is a Scanline VFX.
Yeah, you know what? That makes sense because if you go deeper into his credits, he works for another company called Cinesight, and then before that, a couple other. I just didn't expand the his credit list, but yeah. He
seems like he got a lot of executive producer credits, so it's probably the guy cracking the whip on the guys actually doing the work.
Fair enough.
As someone that's been a producer all things.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, you would know better about that, so yeah. Yeah, so he's in the production house cracking the whip on the Koreans doing the animating. Yeah.
Or I think Germans, I think, based on this website.
Yeah, this guy, the performer, the main character that has. I remember I watched this movie for the first time maybe. Oh, it couldn't have been that long ago. It couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years ago. So this movie's like relatively new to me. And I remember watching it and going like, this is a shocking display of mulletry. Like it is an intense, intense mullet. But now, 4 or 5 years later, there's like 4 kids in my kids' school that have just as sick of mullets. It's insane how prevalent the mullet has become, just ubiquitous once again in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely had kids like this when we were in school, because we were all in school when this kid was young. Like he's probably about our age, and a bunch of kids in our school had fucking mullets like that, mullets and rat tails. It was huge in the 90s.
But it was like 30 years ago, and then you don't see them, and it was shocking to see them again 5 years ago. But now, like literally, went from you never see it to every kid has one. Like my cousin's kid has like a sick ass mullet. And when I say sick ass, I don't mean like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I mean like, that's gross. Your kids should be taken away from you, I think. I'm going to call like Child Protective Services.
We got a grease ball on our hands.
we got a real fucking greaser walking around with a switchblade, How old do you think this kid is? He's probably 9-ish, something like that.
Yeah, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'd say great for not having done like a ton of other performance. I thought it was a great performance overall. I think the character was kind of shittily written, but it's a good performance.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think like this is a particularly well-written film. It's fun, and that kid does a lot of heavy lifting and is asked to kind of perform a wide range as well, because like I think you were talking about this before, Brian, or maybe you were talking about it within regards to another film, but you were saying you're talking about within regards to the film Daddy's Head, about how the kid in that film goes from kind of like a shit, just like a little shit, but then you actually care about him towards the end. But I kind of actually got the same vibe from this film, because you get this kind of like Richie Rich, obnoxious kid who then you actually kind of started to feel for, because he just generally is tortured throughout the film. And then the
worst things happen to this, like the worst situations. Yeah. This is a emotionally predatory movie in a lot of instances.
And then the way it ends is just like destructive. Like I after finishing this film, I said to myself, this might actually be the genesis of the French extremity. Like far before Gaspar Noé came along, there was Deadly Games, and then we watched Inside last month, and Inside is also a Christmas film, but this film like has I can't think of another Christmas film where a dog gets stabbed in the fucking neck.
Yeah, brutal. It's not an off-screen death. It is a really brutal, stabbed with a pie service, what do they call those little things, like a pie slicer in front of the kid, like inches from the kid. It is this movie, with the exception of just a handful of scenes, I think could be almost like a children's movie a little bit, because it's not like pure horror, except for a couple of scenes. You're like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
There's some major tonal shifts throughout this movie.
It is a tonal roller coaster.
Yeah.
The tonal G-forces gave me fucking stomachache.
And if watching the dog getting killed wasn't bad enough, 2 scenes later, you have to watch the kid carry the dead dog and then bury it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
There are so many tonal shifts in this. And then that they're like, that the filmmakers know they're doing it because the soundtrack backs up all of those shifts. Mm-hmm. Like they're just like, oh yeah, we know this is kind of off and weird, but here's a soundtrack that completely goes with what we're trying to tell you. Because now it's action time. Now it's nerd time. Now it's run away, be scared time.
Yeah, this is on purpose.
Yeah, this is on purpose.
We're doing this on purpose. This is not an accident. We like this.
We like horrifying the children. And the whole film is basically about horrifying children, because it starts with, a snowball fight with a bunch of kids, and we get introduced to the villain, who's just kind of like this skeevy pervert wandering around town, and he sees a bunch of kids having snowball fight, and he's like, hey, me too, me snowball fight. And they're like, ew, yuck, old man. And they all run away.
Vagrant pervert. This is the guy. It's weird. Speaking of tonal shifts, this guy, in some instances, you almost feel like he's a sympathetic, Frankenstein's monster type that maybe is just like suffering from mental illness. But then in other instances, you're like, no, this guy is a psychotic pervert vagrant. He's the psychotic pervert vagrant, not the just wants to be a part of society vagrant.
Yeah. It really was only that first scene where you feel a little bit of kind of like sympathy for him. You're like, he's just like a simpleton, and like nobody wants to be around him. But when it's revealed that he's on the Minitel with Thomas, you're just kind of like, nah, like this dude is like kind of harsh. He's into just like tracking, like he's so pissed off that he lost.
It's a funny way of putting it. This guy's kind of harsh.
Yeah.
This guy's harsh in my buzz.
He's harsh in my buzz because he's so pissed off that he lost his line to a kid. Like he's like, oh, my public time on the terminal's up, and I almost had him. And it's like, ew.
Yeah. And this whole Minitel thing is, I remember the first time I watched this, going down the rabbit hole of the Minitel, because I didn't know it even existed. It was like the internet before the internet.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a French version of the internet before the internet. It was bizarre.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned it. You were talking last episode, because I hadn't seen this movie or anything. But then I also went down the same rabbit hole. But I think last episode you said how like 361 or whatever was kind of like calling, the police in France, but that's not what it was. That's actually
no.
The dial-in code, because the Minitel is basically, like you said, it was the internet before the internet, and they had like these little terminals, and you could dial in, and 3615 was the code that they used to connect over the telephone lines. And then once you got into that, 3615 Pere Noel got you to talk to Santa Claus. They had a whole bunch of other pornography ones, 3615 Sextel, and you could get on fucking pervert dating website boards. So yeah,
it's bizarre. And I went and refreshed myself on it, because it had been, like I said, 4 or 5 years since I saw this movie. But I had forgotten just the absolute zero context of this whole Minitel. Like if you didn't look this up, you'd be like, what is happening? What are they doing? Is this some sort of like futuristic, like I just had absolutely no sense that something like this existed prior to seeing this movie.
Yeah. And that's because it primarily existed in France. I believe it actually was developed in France. And then it went to a couple other countries. There was a small period of time where it was used in some instances in the United States, but it never caught on in a wide way because we had already developed Usenet and ARPANET. And so like
plus there's already too many Santa sex perverts in the United States, so we didn't need them.
Yeah.
We didn't need them giving them the direct line to the kiddos, you know.
Yeah, you didn't need to link them up to the kids. You didn't need to like let them start their own network of perversion.
Yeah. Fast forward a scant 30 years, 25 years, and that is the internet.
Yep.
So Minitel was like a precursor to like 4chan.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It was like if 4chan was also Craigslist.
Yeah.
We covered this movie for our podcast, and I remember going through like the same kind of deep dive into what exactly this thing is, because this movie expects a lot from you, and it's probably just the hot new technology at the time. There's like, this thing's gonna be around forever.
Yeah.
And watching it 35 years later, it's like, what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah, it's almost like just calling a movie 1-800-COLLECT, like, or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody would get that anymore. And like it's definitely dead technology. They had I guess apparently Minitel survived pretty well into like 2009, and then 2012 France just shut it down. They're like, we have the internet, stop getting on these little pervert machines.
It's literally just pervert vagrants now.
Yeah, it had to have been.
Yeah.
Just the worst old people just getting on there like, what do you smell like?
That's the most asked question. It was 36515. What do you smell like?
Yeah,
that's the only.
ASL
that was 9
smell.
ASL question mark smell question mark
age, smell, location. Yeah. After we get introduced to all this tech with that, we also get introduced to just generally Thomas's home life, which he is living that Richie Rich lifestyle. He gets to sleep in a decommissioned airplane with his dumbass dog. For some reason, he dreams in English. I don't know why. He's got a shitty grandpa, just kind of like Willy Wonka. Like
he does have a deadbeat Grandpa Joe, fucking eating cabbage broth.
Yeah, because
cabbage broth smelling ass motherfucker.
He lives in a castle. I mean, it just is a castle. And he lives in a castle, and his shitty grandpa is not the owner of the castle. His shitty grandpa is his mom's father, whereas his dad is gone. His dad's dad is also gone. And that's the lineage of the castle. But now you got freeloading, can't see right grandpa, just living in the big bed, taking everything up.
Just laying in there, stinking up the sheets. I have a theory, because we come to realize, you know, we later we feel for him, but the main kid is fairly sadistic in the way that his main source of entertainment throughout the day is to torture his dog.
Yeah.
And his grandfather. And I choose to believe that he murdered his real father, and that's why his mother's a widow. Is because he murdered, like, he put like tripwire, like, you know, piano wire or something, and then like pulled the fire alarm, and his dad ran out of the bedroom and got his head cut off or something. Yeah. I think you're probably right. I don't think it was a malicious murdering, but it was just like a real accidental murdering. Like it was a manslaughter for sure. Yeah, like he put like a bunch of micro machines at the top of the giant staircase or something. It was a 13 Dead End Drive style death. Yeah. Or he literally just dropped the suit of armor on his father and it killed him. Too. I can't believe he hasn't done that to Grandpa yet. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why he figured out to put Grandpa inside the suit later. He's like, well, hey, I know how this works. Inside the suit, safe. Outside the suit, mushed. Bad. That's all he knows. Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, Thomas lives this Richie Rich lifestyle. I'm trying to think, like, what's that Frankie Muniz one?
Agent Cody Banks and or Blank Check, where like he just lives this high tech lifestyle where he has access to a whole bunch of things that like nobody else has access to. For some reason, they let him build a trap door within his own castle to trap his dog, as you were saying. Like, I'm going to chase my dog around the house and then fucking drop the floor out from underneath
just
it.
Shoot him with like Nerf guns until he's just like a nervous mess. He's just shaking and pissing.
When they show the cutaway to the dog in the net with like
it's terrified.
That dog is shaking. That dog hated this fucking production. It hated being on set.
French people probably braised this dog afterwards.
Yeah.
Like they're those goddamn French are animals. They treat they invented foie gras. Like they get off on torturing animals.
It's their thing. Like as soon as they wrapped shooting on that dog, they fucking led it to catering, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
Another unpleasant, a very, very unpleasant scene is homeless pervert vagrant decides he's going to be a Santa Claus, and he gets his hands on a Santa Claus suit, and he's sitting with a kid, and he is just like stroking the kid's face way too long. And this is why you can't ever feel sympathy for him, like ever again in the film. Like, he's just stroking this kid's face, and it's like, oh, okay, that's going on too long. Way, way too long. Yeah. And then when the kid goes, you're not Santa Claus, because Santa Claus doesn't do this to me. He fucking belts her across the face.
Yeah, it's rough.
What I don't get is, after he belts her across the face, the boss, who is also Thomas's mom, shows up, and she fires him on the spot because she doesn't know who her employees are. She just fires him.
She's like the big boss. She's like a bajillionaire. Yeah.
She's the one forcing everyone to work on Christmas Eve.
Right.
I was going to say, they really make it seem like she's like very to be admired, you know what I mean? But she's, I immediately saw her as just like, she's like a robber baron. Like she's just,
yeah.
It
was absolutely like Scrooged coded of her just like, I'm going to make everybody work, including myself, on Christmas.
Till midnight, not like till 5 p.m. And then she's wearing like a vaguely Napoleon style
power suit
vest. Yeah.
She has a power suit, and then like her underling, who's also kind of her like boyfriend. We don't see much of it. We don't see enough of it to like really draw like a connection of like how deep their relationship is. We only get the sense that like Thomas hates this other guy because he is worried about him taking the place of his dad or whatever. But I don't know. He could just be a boy toy because she just treats him like a simp of like, hey, I'm still your boss and all that kind of shit. But yeah, it's very 90s, like greed coded of like, I'm going to be in charge and everybody's going to work till, the end of Christmas. But yeah, she fires him. She fires pervert Santa on the spot and tells him to go to HR. Why the fuck does he listen and go to HR?
I don't know. Why does he do almost everything in this movie? I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but his character is confusing. It kind of messes up the stakes a little bit, but he's still so creepy that you're still scared he's going to do something really awful every time. But he just always goes like, tee-hee-hee, let's get in, and just like lets him go. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they could have made his character a little more clear, but it definitely has this like that's like what the danger is. The danger is he thinks he's just like a fun little kid. Like in his own mind, he thinks he's like a fun little kid having fun with other little kids. Yeah. But then when they go against him, when he is, like pushed away by the kids, that's when he turns into a fucking asshole. And then that's, he does violence because he's upset that he's not getting treated the way he wants. They're not playing the games You know, because he even jumps up at one point, you know, in a jump scare, screaming, "You're cheating! You're cheating!" So like he doesn't like when they cheat. So
right. Yeah, he's a very creepy character. He's very effective in bringing the danger factor. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's a weird dynamic between what they're getting out of that character versus what they're getting out of Thomas.
Yeah. So he does discover, because he does listen and go to HR, he does discover that there is a delivery inbound to Thomas at the castle, and it's all of Thomas's Christmas presents. And he hides out in the back of a delivery van. And then this is where I thought we were going to get like a fair amount of violence in this film, because when the delivery van arrives at the castle, the first thing that happens is the delivery driver opens up the back door and gets jumped by pervert Santa, who drags him in and chokes him and kills him. And it's like, okay, that makes sense for like a horror film. And there's like two other caretakers. They're there and like, okay, they're going to die as well. I thought there was going to be more cat and mouse with like the caretakers.
Yeah.
You know, but there's not.
Nope.
The film boils down to like pretty much all cat and mouse. I even thought there was going to be more cat and mouse with the dog, but what we see is, you know, Thomas has his own plans and he thinks he's going to catch Santa Claus on camera with his vast network of, you know, video cameras in the castle and on his little, like, it's his Predator armband, essentially what it is. Like,
yeah.
He's the Predator.
I mean, he's playing a character where he's Rambo / what's Arnold's character in Predator?
Dutch.
Dutch. He is all those action, you know, late 80s, early 90s action films rolled into one, kind of.
Yeah.
But playing pretend.
Well, I think the French misunderstand what Predator is and who the hero is of that, because he's playing Rambo, hero. He's also playing John McClane in scenes, hero.
Yep.
But he's playing Predator because he has the Predator tech armband and he's using technology to his advantage with like trackers and shit like that.
Whoever is whatever name's in the title, John Rambo, he's the hero.
John Rambo,
Predator, hero. Yeah.
John Die Hard. That's the name of the title in France. John Die Hard.
Le John Die Hard.
Le John Die Hard. But Thomas is trying to investigate and trap Santa, and he's out by the fireplace and he sees Santa come down the fireplace, and it's a great scene because everything goes soft. You know, like we were talking about in Suitable Flesh, the way things are soft in that film, all the lights are soft and everything gets turned up bright because Thomas is seeing Santa Claus. Oh my God, hooray. I finally caught him. I'm going to be the first kid ever to catch him on videotape, and I get to see Santa Claus. And then the fucking dog comes in and just starts biting Santa Claus. Just unrepentant biting.
Yeah, just attacks him.
And then I thought we were going to get more cat and mouse involving the dog, but no, like we already mentioned, Santa Claus just stabs him with a pie service. And it's just like, oh, fuck.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no, bad.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is one of those tonal shifts. I mean, bad things have already happened, right? Santa's already, murdered people and stuff like that. But also, I think the most like heartbreaking part of this too is his mom. I don't remember exactly what she says, but he's talking about how he's going to like stay up and catch Santa Claus and all this stuff. And she's like, well, if you do, Santa will turn into an ogre or something. I remember she says something like a warning, this will happen. Right. So that's what he thinks is happening. So he's not like crazy pervert vagrant dressed up as Santa Claus is breaking into my house. He's like, Santa Claus is pissed. This is my fault. And you know what I mean? And now Santa Claus is out to kill me. Like there's something way more affecting about a child believing that.
Right. Because they've already reinforced his belief in Santa Claus earlier as well. Like they're saying.
And Grandpa's done it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, yeah, Santa Claus doesn't show up for, Pillow because Pillow is a bad kid. So, of course, his parents have to buy him presents because Santa won't give him any because he's a shit.
Yeah. Grandpa says something pretty derogatory about Pillow or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's like, Pillow's a piece of garbage. That's why.
Yeah. Don't believe that kid. Don't listen to him. He's stupid, and his parents have to buy him his presents because he's stupid and bad.
He's ugly, and his parents don't love him, and he can't read good.
Yeah. He ain't worth a shit. You're rich. You get it.
He ain't.
Yeah, that kid's most definitely poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kid ain't worth a shit. That kid, that's what we call a scrub around here, right? Stop talking to the help.
That would have been just like a terrible twist if that kid was like just the child of the help or of like the caretakers.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, again, that dog's happy to get out of the movie, and the rest of the movie just descends into this cat and mouse between Thomas and Pere Noel. As he chases them around the house, we get this insane set piece though of he leads his grandfather into this Goonies style cave, filled with toys.
Whoever built this house that just had this much dead space in the like architecture of this house, like whoever the architect is that just built an entire room for another house behind walls somewhere, it is insane. It's like a child designed this house. Yeah.
It is like a full on, like just almost bat cave because you go through a wardrobe to get to it. And so
it's a Babes in Toyland meets the Batcave situation.
Yeah. And Thomas explains it as like, oh, this is a generational cave. Like, these are all my dad's toys and his dad's toys and his dad's toys. So it goes back at least 3 generations of how deep this cave is.
Yeah, Steve, like, this is rich people shit we do not get. It's it's like Americans not getting the Minitel thing or whatever. It's poor people. We don't understand what this cave is about. But every rich person has a cave like this, a toy cave.
Well, if you think about French history, it's probably a very useful cave in 1940.
That's what I was about to say. I was going to say, they actually, it's probably like a golden painting hoarding cave that got repurposed for fucking stuffed animals.
It used to be full of Nazi gold. His toys are toys. Grandpa's toys were Nazi gold.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because he does mention that it's like his dad's toys and then his grandfather's toys. But
Yeah. But yeah, again, it's just a whole lot of cat and mouse, a whole lot of trying to keep Grandpa safe. The kid is dressed up like Rambo, but he's also running around in his bare feet like John McClane. He's forced out onto the roof and is like, going across it like a skyscraper at times. Mm-hmm. When he eventually starts to take his... like the kid, when he starts to take his revenge on Pere Noel, it's not quite as satisfying as when like Kevin McAllister gets the wet bandits. Yeah. Because every time the wet bandits get hit, it's like a building block of like, they'll get hit once, then they'll get hit with the same trap and then fall into a new trap, or they'll fall into a new trap only to fall back into one of the past traps as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant like building on that comedy. This is just like a couple repeated not repeated, but it's just like vignettes of like, oh, this is where he tripped him. This is where he burned him. And it's not like, it does build on the Santa, because he's constantly like getting new injuries, and that's a cool. I like the way he's getting new injuries and is like getting burnt and getting wet and getting like stabbed and all that. But none of it has the impact. Like when he gets the darts in the neck, it's like it's a relatively non-event because they don't have audio for him screaming, when he gets the darts in the neck, and it's just kind of like the music in the background is like a little too light. There's no like music cue for it. It just,
Yeah. There's nothing. It's not played funny or slapsticky at all.
Mm-mm.
It's played 100%. This guy is just dealing with these traps. Like it's played more like a guerrilla warfare type situation than it is slapstick comedy. Like I wonder. I mean, this did come out a couple of years before Home Alone, and the I don't know who exactly, but the people involved with this movie did attempt to sue the makers of Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like they took the basic concept and then punched it up dramatically, but also turned it into a comedy. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing funny about this. At the very most, you might say that there's a little bit of like a chuckle at like some mischievous stuff he's doing early in the movie. But once it starts getting dire, I mean, there's a skinny little kid workout montage, you know, so there is like a couple of little jokey things, but this is not, there's no slapstick humor with the villain.
No. The closest you get to the slapstick is when, like, two moments is, one is when he sets him up with the train bomb, and he sends the train bomb at Santa, and Santa just picks it up and turns it back the other way.
Yeah,
and like because the bomb didn't go off, that's a little bit funny. But then it also turns serious because now it's going to blow up Grandpa, who's immobilized in a suit of armor.
Yeah, which also I was like, where does this kid, like, did this kid go to like Taliban camp, like to learn to build like IEDs? Like, what the fuck is going on here?
And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. This kid is the perfect Mary Sue. He's the perfect representation of a Mary Sue because. One, he's just a kid, so like and they make no mention of him like being a boy genius or anything like that, but he quite obviously is a boy genius because he's rigged this entire surveillance system up in his house. He knows how to operate it. He knows how to get an old busted ass car running. Like he's yelling at his grandpa because
he's like, and he's like, by the way, he's 8. You know, so.
He's 8. He's underneath the car. He's assumedly the one who put it up on jacks because he's the one that takes the jack down. He's yelling at his shitty-eyed grandpa who's not giving him the right wrench. So, he knows how to get a car started. He knows how to rig all these traps. I assume he built the actual, the fall-away floor. In his, he did all that, rigging himself. So. I don't know. He's but he's a perfect Mary Sue because he gets away with it all. He comes away almost unscathed. He gets like stabbed in the leg, which most children, if you stab them in the leg, will just lie and cry until they're.
That's true. Every time I stab a child in the leg, they just make a big deal about it. And then also. He did watch his dog get murdered with a pie server.
Right.
So even I mean, ultimately I assume he would have done that to his own dog eventually anyway.
Yeah. He wasn't so much upset that the dog got killed. It's more he's upset that he didn't get the kill. It's that Call of Duty anger when somebody steals a kill from you. That's all it was.
That's exactly what it was. Like you're sneaking up behind somebody and then they get sniped. You're like, motherfucker.
Right. Motherfucker, that was mine. I'm so close to a UAV. What are you doing?
So close to a UAV. Meaning you have 2 kills, not the third.
Right. I'm not that good. I do love there is one moment in this cat and mouse when the Santa is running down the same hallway with the trapdoor, and for whatever reason, the filmmakers snap in this Brian De Palma moment where we have a close-up on the kid's face, but then in the background they composite his memory of dropping his dog in the trapdoor again.
Yeah, I do. I will always love that bit. I mean, that's a Looney Tunes bit. You know, I love that.
Yeah. But he just remembers. He's like, oh, yeah, remember this morning when I threw the dog down the hole? I'm going to throw the man down the hole now.
Yeah. The only thing would have been better if it's like at some point he was like, you heard his stomach growl and then he pictured Santa Claus, but then Santa Claus was like morphed into a chicken leg with a Santa hat on and a beard.
Yeah. I love how many kind of like weird setups there are in this. Like, there's so many weird sets overall because we've seen the cave.
There's like a bridge in the house somewhere. Like,
yeah, it's like a Goonies bridge.
Where the fuck is that? Behind the wall?
Yeah, it's behind the wall. It's in the toy cave.
Yeah.
The maze that the kid runs through. It's like
I forgot about the maze.
Yeah, I think it's like supposed to be an art gallery within the house, but it's also a maze. And then when they pull up to the overview, it's another piece of art that encompasses the whole floor that is like two eyes looking up. It's so weird for no fucking reason, but it rules. Like, why would you put that in there? It doesn't matter. It's awesome.
So, this is a movie I would have really liked when I was little, just because of those things, you know, because that's like, to be able to have a sweet adventure in your house like that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But then the reality of this movie, and honestly, going into this, I was thinking, like, when you drew this movie, I was like, that's a fun movie. That's going to be hard to beat. And then I watched it again. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of just left me really wanting. Like, it sets up all these. It makes a lot of promises it doesn't deliver on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Comic mischief, like wacky comic slapstick mischief, and like crazy, adventures on set pieces. And it's like they never really materialize. It's just like a guy breathing heavy on a kid.
Yeah. That's the main problem. Is that like if either go full horror movie or go kids movie, but the in between is like kind of hard to reconcile when you're seeing all these fun set pieces, but the implication is that this guy's gonna rape this kid. like
right.
Like that's just
it's hard to have fun. It's hard to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't have fun. Like when we watch,
here's a scene in this bouncy house, and then followed by this kid making a makeshift tourniquet because he just got stabbed in the Achilles.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. We say the tonal shifts here a little wacky.
Yeah. It's hard to have fun. And like when he's setting up the traps, there like the soundtrack in that scenes of him setting up the traps, it sounds like the soundtrack you would hear in Revenge of the Nerds or Real Genius. Because he's just kind of like working everything out. He's like boop doo doo oh boop, and it's like doing science and doing traps, and I'm gonna catch Santa Claus.
Dude,
so he
so
doesn't
many
fuck me.
What's plural for montage? Is it just montages? Because holy shit, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's a lot of montage. The one thing I have to bring up is one of these montages is an insane Christmas song. And it's supposed to be when he's at his lowest. He's lost basically all his camera and all his gear and everything. And he's up in the attic, and the moonlight is coming through this one window, and it's supposed to be really sad. And they start playing this Christmas song that has, like, if you half listen to the lyrics, you'll pick up on keywords like Christmas and Jesus. But if you look at the entire lyrics, they are the most insane ESL bullshit I've ever heard. And it's because the composers of this film, who are two French guys, wrote the song and the lyrics and then had Bonnie Tyler, an American artist, record them. Yeah.
And that also, like, was this a situation of like when Brad Pitt does Japanese jeans commercials? Like, why is Bonnie Tyler, who in 1989 would have been a very big star, right? I'm not saying she's like Taylor Swift, Beyonce or something, but like she was very well known, in, cause she's Total Eclipse of the Heart, right? That's Bonnie Tyler.
Yeah.
Is that Total Eclipse of the Heart? What was her big hit? She had multiple big hits, but like in 1989, she would have been really recognizable. Why is she doing a song for this weird French pervert Santa Claus movie?
But I think it's exactly that. It's the same way that in the 80s and 90s, David Hasselhoff was big in Germany. So, like, maybe these two French guys had, like, an in to Bonnie Tyler. Or maybe they just really love Total Eclipse of the Heart. Whatever it was. They got her to sing this insane song. And I just want to read some of the lyrics because it's supposed to be a Christmas song. And it is.
I'm currently looking at them. They're pretty wild.
They're fucking madness.
All right, I'm excited.
Okay, so I'll go to the last stanza because I think it's the craziest. But the last stanza is wanted Mr. Xmas, reward little Jesus. Kids don't grow up like us. You could change the plan. Here comes the darkness. Time to be sad. What the fuck kind of Christmas movie song is that?
That sounds like a poor translation of like an anime, like an anime theme song.
Yeah.
Even the opening of the song, don't change kids, comma, stay with us, stay a little Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then happy birthday, Christmas, welcome holy Jesus is in there.
That is when I started keying into the lyrics because that sounded so much like an ESL thing. Happy birthday, Christmas. Nobody says happy birthday, Christmas. That's fucking crazy.
Certainly not.
Maybe she was huge in France. Her first single was called Lost in France.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what it is. Just even mentioning France or Paris gets them all rock hard and they're like, oh, that's our new hero. Yeah.
They talked about us and they didn't mention how we just rolled over for the Germans.
Yeah.
She wrote a song with France in the title that didn't talk about us giving up on something.
Yeah. Bonnie Tyler was the first American to not call them cowards in 50 years. And so they immediately made her a hero right next to Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, it's her and Jerry Lewis. Yeah. She's now the French ambassadors to the U.S. Yeah, that's wild. I'm going to go look at this song. I mean, I made a mental note that it was like, it was a weird song by Bonnie Tyler, but I didn't pick up on all that insanity.
Yeah. Just go read the lyrics on its own. Cause like even the lyrics when you're listening to the song are a little hard to like discern, but when you read them, it's just like that. That's madness. That's fucking madness. Cause when you're listening to it, your brain doesn't want to like accept that as what it's being told. It's like, what does any of that mean? But so after this scene where he's got all his sadness out and he is more resolute, Thomas is gonna finally take down Santa Claus because Santa has taken everything away from him. The police show up and you think, oh, the day is saved, the mom is on the way home, everything's gonna work out. Doesn't work out. Grandpa is having an insulin fit. So he has to go get the insulin from the caretakers. And then we see, the caretakers are dead. And he comes back in. He, he's getting chased by Santa Claus again and jumps in the car. Like after Santa Claus catches him, Santa Claus is like, okay, I found you. We were playing hide and seek. Now it's your time to seek me. And he's like, well, fuck all that. I'm going to jump in the car and drive away because I know how to work cars because, I'm Mary Sue.
Yeah. And I built cars on a regular basis as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I build cars. I know how this works. Drives away in the car. Santa Claus pops up, crashes the car, finds the cop's body that the Santa had killed out in the woods. And this is where, like, again, we didn't get enough of like Santa actually getting these other people. And I was surprised that he didn't get Polo either. Yeah, because he has kind of that almost shining chase scene through the trees, right? As he's running down Polo on the bike. But Yeah. Thomas trips over his body and finds the cop's gun and then shoots Santa Claus. And we think, oh, the day is saved. Time to go save Grandpa with the insulin. But no, he's back. He's still not dead. And I like kind of this final look of Santa Claus because at this point, he just looks like a zombie.
Yeah, he's all fucked up.
Yeah, he's just covered in mud and sores and burns. It's pretty great. It's a pretty great like final visage for this kid to see Santa Claus as. And then fucking shitty-eyed Grandpa takes the shot. And I like how they do kind of edit it in that kind of well, did he shoot Thomas or not fashion? Yeah. Like, is this super sad Christmas or no?
Oh, how wild would it have been if it ended as Mr. Magoo accidentally shoots his grandson?
I think they had to have considered it at one point.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they did it and then like producers were like, no, you can't. You cannot do that.
Absolutely not.
You cannot do that. And then they zoom out and not only had he killed the kid, but also the dog wasn't dead after all. And he shot the dog too. And now the dog's definitely dead.
Yeah. But yeah, he misses Santa and the kid and just shoots the dog again.
The dog's like, I'm woof, 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 woof. And then in subtitles it says, I'm okay, guys. Bullet through the eye. Fucking Mo Green style.
But no, what we do get is we get a dead Santa Claus, and we get Thomas, who is just infinitely scarred by this. He's just running through all the thoughts that he's had and all the things that he's been told. He's remembering how his mom told him that Santa would turn into an ogre. And Santa basically did turn into an ogre. Santa tried to kill him. Santa killed his dog.
Right.
You know, Christmas is ruined. His life is destroyed. And that's what you end on. Like, it's what a terrible Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not great.
He's still rich. He's gonna be fine.
Oh yeah.
Well, what if they also cut to like the cops showing up at the house and they're like, oh, finally the police showed up and they're like, Thomas, we got bad news. Your mom was murdered by her clandestine boyfriend at work or whatever. And then it was just silent night.
It's like the ending of The Mist, just French and Christmassy.
Yep.
Happening to a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah. Oh boy, what a feel good flick. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my elevator speech on this movie. I thought I liked it more than I did because I remembered all the setups and all the fun stuff, and then and there still was fun stuff. Don't get me wrong. You know, like I said, every time the Santa was on screen, you're like, oh god, he's really creepy. And the little kid, you know, you do ultimately feel for him, although it's, you know, it's a little brutal the way you make you feel for him, but fine, whatever. But yeah, it just doesn't deliver on all the fun that you think or wackiness that you think is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like all the kind of ways it pulled from action films, and like you can kind of just see like the influence, and I like the weird sets and all that. And it reminded me of the Robin Williams movie Toys for a bit. Sure. Just how kind of weird it is.
Toys is a good one because I actually in my head was thinking Babes in Toyland, but I'm like, no, it's not really Babes in Toyland. I think you're right. It's more Toys, but it also is it's a little bit like, I don't know, has some vibes. Maybe it's more the way it's shot, not like the supernatural stuff, but like the oh god, what's it called? Now I can think of as Babes in Toyland. Like Return to Oz ish a little bit.
Oh, okay.
The way that like the back when they're back behind the wall and it's just like the background's just dark and you're like, they could be in some supernatural void right now, but they're just in a place in his house.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, technically it would almost be more like Narnia since they go through a wardrobe.
Oh, they literally do go through his wardrobe, yeah.
I kind of wish they leaned into more of the action movie aspect of it. Like, I'm thinking Son of Rambo, you know, that could have been a really... If it went more that way, I think it could have been a little more... you know, kind of what we wanted it to be, I think is kind of what I'm saying. Because we were talking about the tonal shifts earlier, and that's really it's kind of straddling that line between a serious movie and a more fun romp. And I think if they really played up that, not quite a parody, but, you know, for a lack of a better word, a parody of like these action movies from the 80s, it'd be a lot more fun. I do like the look of this movie. You just mentioned, talk about it. It kind of feels like everything's happening in a snow globe, especially with those exterior shots of like the castle. It just looks very hyper realism sort of thing, where it's not quite reality, but it's in this own little world. I will defend this kid's mullet. This mullet is amazing.
It's serious. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I think what the death of an animal does kind of like cancel it out, though. So it's like a positive and then a negative.
One dog murder cancels out one gorgeous mullet.
Yeah.
It's very dream. The whole movie feels very dreamlike.
Yeah.
You almost wonder if at any point you feel like he's just going to wake up, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the dog murder. It's the
dog moida.
It's the dog moida. It's the implicit. What is it? It's the implication.
Pedophilia.
It's the implication.
It's the implication. It's the implication.
Yeah. So those two things just really set it on a downward slope. But because he never like really gets into just some like brutality on Santa Claus. Like he does, shoots him in the neck with darts and sets him on fire a little bit, but it doesn't
a little bit, like not in a way that it looks like it really got him. Right.
You know, if you had like a full body burn of a Santa going over a railing into a Christmas tree, like,
hell yeah.
That'd be fucking awesome, and that plays more into the action movie. What you get instead is just like fire in front of an actor,
right?
And it's like a cheap effect, and you kind of go,
no one's in peril. No one's in peril.
So yeah, they had to go meaner for Thomas had to go meaner, but
here's what I learned in this movie. For even the implication of pedophilia completely takes Steve out of the Christmas spirit.
Right.
And I think that's just a character flaw on your behalf. Like you could just put up with a little bit, keep your spirits up. All right. Okay. That was 1989's Deadly Games, aka Dial Code Santa, aka Game Over, aka Hide and Freak, aka 3615, code Pere Noel. All right, let's jump into the second movie of the evening, which was, of course, Anthony's assignment to talk about Better Watch Out from 2016.
Yep. Okay. So, Better Watch Out is a 2016 film directed by Chris Peckover, who directed this and one other movie. The other one was called Undocumented, which seems like it's still very relevant today. It's an Australian production, so you really won't know most people here except for Virginia Madsen and Patrick Warburton, who decided to take this as a chance to vacation in Australia for a week for 1 day of work, as well as DeCray Montgomery, I think I'm pronouncing his first name right, who you know from Stranger Things as Billy and in the Power Rangers movie. And this is essentially Reverse the Babysitter, the Netflix horror movie starring Samara Weaving.
Yeah.
It is. It's basically starts off as a home invasion film. and then kind of does a twist. I remember I watched this 4 years ago or so, somewhere around there, probably around the beginning of the pandemic, and I was actually not spoiled for the twist of what this movie actually is. Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting viewing of when you watch a movie that has a twist and you don't get spoiled. It's a nice happy accent to have. I will say that this movie has the biggest little shit in a movie I've seen in a long time.
He does a great job of just delivering on a hateable character. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. He's a cunt.
Yeah, he's got that. And your movie and my movie, Anthony, have in common that both, have this one thing in common. Both of our movies have a ventriloquist dummy come to life. And as one of the leads, this, being the antagonist. But to make that, kid seem threatening, which he does, he pulls it off, and also supremely hateable, is a testament to his performance.
I know we talked about this when we did that Vince Vaughn film Freaky, and we talked about how this probably just started as just the idea, Freaky Friday the 13th, and then that was the original title of it.
Yeah,
I was watching this, and I'm sure somebody's already said it before, but I was watching this and I was like, they probably started simply with the idea, we need to talk about Kevin McAllister.
Sure,
could be, yeah, sure.
They just started with that title, and then they're like, let's go from there.
Yeah. And then the tagline is your girlfriend, woof. But he's like in a positive way.
Yeah. So the plot is it's pretty light in plot. There's one central kind of situation that's happening. We get Luke, who's a 12-year-old. It is interesting watching this movie because my 7-week-old is also named Luke, so this made it all the weirder. But anyway, we have a 12-year-old named Luke who looks a little bit older and feels like probably is old enough to not need a babysitter, but his parents, specifically his mom, is kind of a little protective of him and coddling him. So he needs a babysitter.
And his dad's Brock Sampson. He don't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Patrick Warburton, who has probably not had a thought in his head in the past 30 years, just coasting through life on vibes. So the babysitter enters the situation, and we learn before she comes over, Luke is talking with his buddy Garrett, is that he's in love with his babysitter, and he plans to make the moves on her that night in hopes of getting laid. She is 17 and out of his league regardless, so that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, these are like I don't know what you call a pre-incel. Like, they are incels, but they're not really old enough to be considered incels. They're like incels in training.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still technically incel because it's involuntary on his part because he's just 12. Like, he can't help that.
That's what I'm saying. There is some I think there's some implication when tagging somebody as an incel that they are old enough that they should not be celibate anymore.
No, I'm taking a new stance. All babies are incels.
I was gonna see if we were gonna get there, but okay, fine. I appreciate you just standing up and dying on that hill.
Yeah, all babies are incels. That's how it is.
It's not untrue. Yeah. So
wait, no. That implies that the babies want to have sex, Steve. Prove to me that you have
they're Volcells. They're voluntarily celibate.
Prove to me that these little babies want to be fucking.
I can't, Brian.
Exactly.
I'm not asking. I'm not running that poll.
Exactly.
Yeah, not without the FBI getting involved.
You just go to jail for even starting that study.
Yeah.
Hypothetically. Well, you could do that on X, though, because that's the place for free speech.
Yeah, it's all about free speech and pedophilia over there.
So Ashley comes over and she's apparently leaving soon. She's going to the big city. I think, I don't remember if they name the city. Maybe it's New York, maybe it's California, or Los Angeles. But
no, she's going to Pittsburgh. They say,
is she going to Pittsburgh?
Yes, they say very clearly she's moving to Pittsburgh. They say it twice, and I'm very tuned in to when people are coming and going from Pittsburgh.
They do. Now that you mentioned it, I do remember they said Pittsburgh, which is, quaint, I guess, for Australia.
Yeah. That's good publicity for Pittsburgh, that we make it all the way to Australia and are like a known point in the world. Mm-hmm. We are the Paris of Appalachia. So
this is not. Does it say where this is set? Because I know it's shot in Australia, but it's clearly set in the U.S. Right?
Yeah, I don't know where. No,
I mean it's a cold climate, obviously.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. I didn't make a note of it.
Yeah. Indiana, Pennsylvania, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like an Indiana, maybe a Johnstown.
She's making the move to the big city.
a Mechanicsburg.
Yeah.
That's like a town where it's like, that's the move. It's like when the people that make it out of this town alive, they go to Pittsburgh.
It could even be like a Youngstown, Ohio. And like, they're the richest families in Youngstown.
They do have a nice house. But
this is Poland. This is Poland, Ohio. This is outside.
So he has plans to kind of make his feelings known to her, and he has grand, lofty ideas that she's going to reciprocate those. You know, everyone needs a goal, so good for him. Swing for the fences, buddy. But she comes over, and he immediately starts to be unlikable when he opens a bottle of champagne and starts drinking it in front of her, forcing her to kind of, lay down the law. And then not long after that, they start to get noticing some things that are different and, not right in terms of possibility of someone trying to break into the house. Bro winds up just being this shitty kid's other shitty friend, Garrett, who's just hanging out. And then from there, there's a brick gets thrown through a window that gives them a very cryptic message. You leave and you die. And Garrett runs out of the house, and apparently it looks like he gets shot.
Yeah. I remember the first time I watched this movie, that point throwing me for a loop, because it was like, oh, it's not, you kind of in the back of your head was like, was it really shot? But like, make it look like he got shot.
Yeah. Because it doesn't, it's the sound effect that clues you in, because it wasn't a gun. It was like an air rifle.
Yeah. And then so at this point we think we're headed for a funny game sort of situation. But Ashley and Luke run upstairs, and Luke is starting to take, kind of control the situation. He's feeling his balls a little bit. He thinks he's going to be the man of the house at this point, and ward off a masked intruder and all that kind of stuff.
He is employing the dentist system, because when she falls out of the attic and he catches her, like, that's his moment to demonstrate value.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's starting to employ the dentist system.
I just said that he has now demonstrated value.
Although the circumstances around her falling through the ceiling, I don't know how he can rig that. That feels like it's happenstance, right?
Yeah, I think that was just a coincidence.
Right.
He's lucky as fuck he catches her.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah. So then there was a masked gunman running through the house with a shotgun, but Ashley recognizes the mask, and she realizes not long that the gunman is in fact Garrett, his buddy. So she realizes that this was all one giant great ploy that Luke has set up to try and show his value to her, demonstrate value. And she is pretty pissed off about it. But then Luke. She goes to storm out, and then Luke chases after her, slaps her across the face, and she falls down the steps and gets knocked out. And this is where we realize that Luke has been planning this all along, but he hasn't told Garrett that it was going to go this far.
Yeah,
and Garrett is pretty upset about it.
This is such a good turn, because up until this point, and it is basically when she just like shuts everything down and is like, hey, you're a little kid, what do you think you're fucking doing? I have no interest in you. I'm not going to be with you in that way. You weren't going to trick me into having sex with you or anything like that. And it has, up until that point, the movie has kind of this 90s vibe of, Garrett and Luke are just boys being boys, and they're going to do
moderate incel mischief.
Right. That was okay in the 80s and 90s. There's plenty of worse examples. We already mentioned Revenge of the Nerds once tonight, but we'll mention it again. And yeah, they had this like little ploy of like, oh, we're going to get her and we're going to trick her. And then, she's not going to know nothing. And they even kind of continue to play into the 90s tropes a little bit of like when they leave Garrett alone with the computer to log on, and she's just like, I don't know, do whatever, do your little techno magic, which is like something you would say in the movies back then.
Yeah.
Of like just expecting a kid knowing how to hack into, a server or whatever. Like, you're the nerd, fucking do it.
Do nerd shit. Do nerd magic on it.
Yeah.
I think the creepiest part of this too is like I guess the subtext here is like these kids are kind of, how do I put it? They're experiencing some sort of like shared psychosis or mental illness. You know what I mean? Like whether it's one manipulating the other or they're both doing it, but they're still kids. Like when they're having a little discussion about like Adventure Time, you're like, they're doing fucked up, life-threatening things with humongous consequences, but they're still dumb little kids with underdeveloped brains.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that continues throughout, because like that's basically how Luke gets, or like how others get the advantage over Luke every time, is that he's still just a dumb little kid.
Yeah.
And all of his plans breaking down, it's all surrounded about whether or not he gets in trouble with his parents.
Yeah,
so,
that's
like,
really all he cares about. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything goes wrong outside of his plan, it could get him in trouble with his parents, and he can't have that. So it's not a concern about the law or like the bigger picture. It's just like, I don't want to get yelled at, because then, they'll take my toys away or whatever. I'll get grounded and my mom will be mad at me, and, they'll take away my fucking sleep buddy, my little womb system.
Yeah. My waifu pillow.
Yeah. They won't give me my Fortnite dollars, and they'll take away my waifu pillow.
My Fortnite dollars.
My V-Bucks.
V-Bucks, yeah. I still don't know what that is. I hear that reference. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what V-Bucks are, to be honest with you. I know what Roblox, like the currency on Roblox is, because my kids are always want that. But
aren't you excited, Anthony, that one day your son will charge too many Roblox bucks to your credit card?
Yeah. No, they
can't wait for it.
They got to ask. They got to ask. That's for sure. Or else, if I see okayed Robux on there, heads are rolling. I'll punch an 8-year-old kid in the face. I'm just kidding.
So when Ashley comes to, she's been duct taped to a chair, and Luke continues to just start swinging champagne from the bottle, and he wants to play truth or dare with her. And this is really all a situation that he has set up in order to grope her, sexually assault her while she's stuck to the chair. Which is great. Just great.
Yeah. This is where like he's already a bastard, but like at this point, like this is he's really making you hate him and wish ill on him, you know?
Yeah. This is the big tonal shift. And you're kind of like, you're like really uncomfortable at this point of like, all right, well, if they're going to go this far, they have to go further the other way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like he has to have comeuppance, which spoiler is the one thing I really don't like about the film.
Sure. Yeah. So eventually, while she's still tied to the chair, there's a knock at the door. It winds up it's Ricky, who is Ashley's boyfriend. So he starts storming into the house. Luke tells him that she's not here. She doesn't want to talk to him. She's upstairs and she's mad at him. But he's almost an adult, so he pushes right through Luke's attempts to stop him, and then realizes that something is amiss and starts getting into a fight with Luke until Garrett pulls the shotgun on him, and then Luke knocks him out and then ties him to another chair. And then they reveal that Luke basically texted Ricky from her phone to invite him over. So he's set this part up as well. He's a little mastermind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
basically. So
yeah, I like the way that they gradually kind of introduce you in stages to the depth of his premeditation.
Right.
They don't reveal it all at once. They're just like, oh, he did that. Oh, wow. Oh my God. And they just keep like peeling back the layers of the onion of like, oh, he's not only has this planned out weeks ahead of time, he really thinks very highly of himself and his ability to get away with things. I mean, at some point, he even sees like, I'm the fucking Harry Houdini of getting away with shit or something like that. Like he's not just manipulative, weird little incel. He is a full on sociopath, like to the max.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this also helps lend to like the Garrett character as he is basically a frog in a boiling pot from his perspective. Cause like he was down to do some of this stuff. You know, he was down to like scare Ashley, but then like when she winds up tied to the chair, he's like, not too sure about it, but he's kind of already into it, but he doesn't know how deep things, are like that. Lucas has actually just been planning to murder 3 people. Yeah. And Garrett doesn't know that he's all in for that. Also he's been drugged because Lucas gave him a fucking oxy to calm him down and everything. So
right. Yeah. Garrett was thinking he was going to get to feel her up as well. Right. That's like,
I got that feeling too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe I could touch a boob too tonight. Mm-hmm. And there's a great moment. I think I passed by it, but where during the Truth or Dare, Ashley makes basically Luke reveal that he killed Garrett's hamster, which I believe he blamed on the cat. So that's kind of using Luke's past actions to kind of have a split between those two, which was an interesting kind of little tidbit. So while these two are tied up, Ashley takes any moment she can. She manages to get a piece of broken glass from, I think, the broken champagne bottle, and cut herself free at any time that Luke kind of leaves the room. But then eventually Luke wants to finalize an experiment that they were talking about in the beginning of it, once and for all, kind of Mythbuster-ish, alluding to the paint cans from Home Alone and whether or not it would just explode someone's head or not if hit there. So they test it on Ricky, and this Ricky's demise, I felt, was very much the running in a straight line from Prometheus sort of situation, where what situation you are tied to a chair, try and like knock the chair over,
do something.
Do something.
Yeah, he's a little too accommodating, and they test the paint cans over the side, and sure enough, it happens all off screen. but his head essentially explodes from Luke's commentary to it.
And yeah, it's shame on him for not trying harder, trying everything in his power.
Yeah.
I don't think he was appreciating the severity of his situation, but at the same time, I don't think anybody expected that to happen. And I don't think, listen, I've not tried out this theory, but I don't think that'll happen.
No.
That has to be, unless you put some nitroglycerin filled paint can up there or something. Like, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible Ricky had bird bones and he didn't know.
Maybe. Ooh.
Avian bone syndrome.
Yeah, he did. He had hollow bones, so that makes sense now.
It's especially with, you need at least a little more oomph than what Luke gave it for
maybe if it was a cinder block, but even then, like, it's probably just it's breaking your neck. Your head's not exploding.
Yeah.
No.
Now, if you put your head up against a wall, and then now we're talking business, boys. But sorry, I just wanted to.
You're getting CTE, sure, but you're
right.
You're probably going to get knocked back in the chair, which is going to, lessen the blow a little bit.
That's why I'm sticking with bird bones.
Oh my God, I know what it was. His head was made of cake. It was like
it was a cake. It was cake all the time.
It was
real cake.
Yeah, or is it cake or whatever that show's called? His head was cake.
Yeah, Ricky or cake. It was cake.
Ricky or cake.
So from this point, Ashley manages to escape while this is happening, and she makes it outside and tries to call out to carolers who are caroling next door, but Luke hits her with that brick that was tossed through the window and knocks her out. So she gets knocked out again. She gets tied up once again, this time with Christmas lights, and Luke takes this opportunity. He gets a little greedy at this point, and he brings another person into the mix, Jeremy, her ex-boyfriend, who is played by Dacre Montgomery, and he comes over, and for some reason he is complying with Luke's stupid comments about how how Ashley called her over, but she wants him to write down his apology on a notepad, which he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would put up for it. He's just like, fuck that, because he probably can't read and probably doesn't know how to write either. this Jeremy.
Yeah, I get the idea that, so they play him up. He's a real dumbass. He's like the dumbass stoner wannabe thug that she broke up with and never got over her kind of thing. But he looks like, for any kids who grow up skateboarding, he's a Ryan Sheckler type. Okay.
Oh yeah.
He's a very specific type. He's got the hat on back where, so you get the idea that he's just going to be easily manipulated.
Yeah. He's a dumb guy.
He's a dumb.
He's a dumb guy. So what he is essentially doing is writing his own suicide note that also implicates him in anything that's happened at the house or will happen at the house. And then Luke manages to hang him from the tree while he is sitting on a swing. Yeah,
with a lawnmower, with the riding mower.
Yeah,
and it is a fairly brutal scene. I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, whoa. This is pretty, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. It's a nice little scene. And then while that is happening, Garrett is starting to have a change of heart. He's showing a conscience and starts to free Ashley. But in order to free her, he has to touch her, and Luke is specifically forbade him from touching Ashley, and he shoots him and kills him. And then Luke then has a conversation with Ashley, one-sided, decides that kind of the jig is up now, it's time to just finish the job, and he stabs her in the neck and stages the scene to frame Jeremy from doing all of this. So he leaves her for dead, and then he sets himself up to act like he's been sleeping in his bed the whole time as his parents are coming home.
A couple of things that down the stretch of this movie that I really like. One, it's this moment where there's a she comes to the realization that he was never going to let her go, and that she was going to die no matter what the entire time, kind of thing. And or at least she comes to that conclusion, whether or not that was a reality or not. And then the other one is, weirdly enough, you assuming at this point that he's killed her, and now it's all about him getting away with it. And all of a sudden, you're like feeling his anxiety of trying to, because he cleans everything up and everything goes according to plan, but then he's really struggling to get there's this bit with like a pencil that they put on the outside of the door to see if because he has an issue with sleepwalking. So he has
Wait, it's also a lie.
Yeah, so
well, it's a lie.
It's also a lie. Yeah.
Yeah.
His mom. Yeah. But yes, essentially. So his mom puts a pencil in his door jamb every night, so they know whether or not he sleepwalks. But then it's revealed later on in the movie that it was sleepwalking was a cover for a previous lie that he. Yeah. I don't exactly remember what the lie was.
I don't remember either. Yeah.
But it winds up that he lied to his mom and manipulated her previously. So now this whole sleepwalking thing isn't true either. But yeah.
But then he has to go out on the roof, and then he like knocks over some Christmas, and this is all happening as his parents are pulling in. So you're rooting for him to get caught. You're rooting for them to see him, but you're also feeling his anxiety of like rushing to. It's a really memorable scene, because you're not rooting for him, but you're like, oh my God, they're going to see him. They're not going to see him. Oh, he's going to get caught. He's not going to get caught. You know what I mean? It's pretty fun little scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty effective, and like you almost are. I would say you are rooting for him to almost get away with
a little bit.
This kid.
Yeah, you don't want him to get away with it. You just don't want him to get caught in that moment for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. But then, so he starts going through, tying up loose ends. Like there's also, he realizes that Ricky has a hole in his face from when he got stabbed in the face with the pencil. So he's got to kind of make that look like there's a reason for it, and all that stuff. So he's scrambling around. He's watching his phone. He's got a tracker on his parents' car or his parents' phone, so he knows where they are. So he's, you see basically a countdown of them coming home, with him trying to tie up all loose ends and get back into bed before they come home. And sure enough, he's in bed when they come home, and they see like the massacre that's happening downstairs. And his mom comes and checks on him, makes sure he's fine. They fast forward a little bit. Cops show up, everything, and then when Luke thinks he's gotten away with it and everything is all coming up Luke, he hears one of the EMTs say that Ashley has survived. She has used the duct tape that she is being bound with in order to act as a tourniquet on her stab wound. So she is slowed the bleeding, and she is still alive. And the EMTs work on her and put her back in the ambulance, which Luke is watching from his window. And basically the last thing he sees of Ashley is her making eye contact with him and flipping him off as she gets put in the back of the ambulance. And that is essentially the last note of this film. And as Steve alluded to, maybe not the ending we want to see for Luke, because it's still a little open-ended.
Yeah. It's just an ending without consequence for him. And like, right. We can draw the future out and say, oh yes, she's going to tell the cops what happened, and then he's going to go to the thing is, and it's it's addressed in an Law and Order SVU episode. Is like, when you have a sociopath kid and you're Kyle MacLachlan, you just got to grab that cop's gun and shoot that sociopath. You got to shoot that kid in the middle of the courtroom.
So yeah, this is an interesting thing, because I remember feeling that the first time I saw it, and not liking the ending for that reason, or not being upset, just not being super high on the ending. This time I liked it more, and I think I did because of the kind of look that he gives at the end and the circumstances in which he sees her. Like he sees her, she like flips him off. He's like hugging his mom. And it's this moment of like, if you think about what this sociopath, the worst thing that you can do to him is like remove his control. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what she's now done. It is out of his hands. She is out of his reach. He cannot control that. And like that internally, how devastating that must feel for him, even though the outcome's uncertain. The taking the control and the ability to manipulate things out of his hands. Not to say he couldn't somehow, manipulate things, but it does feel a little apropos for the type of villain he is. But listen, if she got loose and hit him with a snow shovel, would that make me feel better? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Would I like that more? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would even be willing to give it to go as far as like when he comes in off the balcony, like that little moment where he has undone himself by not being able to put his pencil back up on the door and he has to go out on the roof and everything. That moment where he comes back in through the other room, if Ashley was there waiting for him with her neck duct taped up and, reminded him, oh yeah, duct tape, 1,000 uses, to bring, to call it back to what he said to her, all the times he's tied her up. And then she just fucking stabs him. Or she like she set up a trap, like a micro machine trap. And he fucking...
He comes through the window, stomps on Christmas ornaments, and then she tars and feathers him, and
yeah, and then he falls down the stairs and breaks his neck. You know, any of those things, and then she just uses all the things he set up for Jeremy. Like
the problem then is like then what happens when the parents come home? Then he might appear to be a victim.
Well, yeah, then he appears to be a victim, but he's still dead.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't necessarily matter how the parents feel about him, because it's more about just getting rid of that element. And then Ashley is free to just she can either try to blame the kid, which the parents aren't really going to believe because he's a kid. Who would believe their little angel would do such a thing? Or she just takes the setup that Jeremy tried to kill them all and just, reappropriates that and then moves to Pittsburgh and forgets about everything in her past. Like just leaves it all behind.
Sure.
Just says, fuck off, Canton. I'm out of here.
Yeah, now what we're talking about, I'm not sure what ending I would prefer. Cause like part of me just wants to see his head get blown off by a shotgun at the end. Cause that's unequivocally, that's what this kid deserves. But I think there is a poetry to him having this all planned out, and the thing that brings him down is something that he overlooks, was her ability just to survive long enough for the EMTs to, it's something so simple, like
it
hit her, stab her in the heart, and he probably gets away with it.
It's so simple, and at the same time it happens off camera is the other thing that bothers me.
Sure.
Is that like we just don't see her undo him in some way.
Yeah.
Like this, the little scamper across the roof and everything actually doesn't matter for the ending at all, because that's not what undoes him. So it just, I would prefer to see, like, I don't know. Yeah. I just would.
Her having, you see her seeing like coming to for enough to, do what she does to keep herself alive.
Just some way for her to outsmart him once again. Because I mean, she's been outsmarting him throughout the entire film. He gets outsmarted by fucking Ricky when he answers the door, and he's like, just pass the flowers through the door, and Ricky's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then he's dumb enough to just open the door, and Ricky's like, get the fuck out of the way, stupid dumbass little kid.
Right. But also, he invites Ricky over, so is that another manipulation from him?
Yeah, true.
I was like, oh, I let you get through the door because this is part of my plan. You want to be through the door,
right?
Yeah, I think there's something like she, while he's outside with Jeremy, she has set something up that winds up being his ultimate downfall or something like that, rather than just, she doesn't know that he's going to stab her, or she doesn't know he's going to shoot Garrett and then stab her. So she sets something up, like, a phone set to record or something like that. So something that makes she's thinking a step ahead of him, rather than
I like that.
Her being a little more reactionary in how she ultimately takes him down.
I just thought about what it should have been, because we're doing Home Alone stuff. It should have been a talk boy. She should have recorded his confession on a talk boy.
Sure.
And then when
well, if it was any of the real talk boys, they were actually kind of shit.
Well, yeah, the audio quality shit and everything,
but then whenever they when the parents walk in, they're like, "Hey kids, we're home early."
It's me, the father.
Hey,
stop drooling on me.
Virginia, have you seen my talk boy?
It's Patrick Warburton, the father.
Hey, Peter. Hey, Peter, have you seen my talk boy? I got it out for my son to play with.
But yeah, that's Better Watch Out.
Yeah.
It's pretty effective. It's an effective little movie.
Yeah. I will say, and I'm not picking on her. I forget the performer's name that plays Ashley, but a couple times that Australian accent really sneaks out. A couple times, 2-3 times, she goes a little Aussie on us. But overall, great performances, I think, all around. It's really only a few, only a few characters, but even the boyfriends, I think they're effective. So, yeah. Fun little flaky. Fun.
It's definitely a movie that is. It hinges on the actor Levi Miller's performance as Luke, and he's great in it.
Yeah,
he's a fucking asshole, and you hate him as long as you're supposed to hate him. You hate his guts.
Yep. Very, very effective. All right, let's jump in and wrap it up. I'm going to talk about a little flick from the year of our Lord 2022. We're going to talk about The Mean One. These are 3 very diverse movies. This movie is a low budget feature from 2022, directed by Stephen Lamort. He has done a decent amount of stuff, not a ton of things that I think a bunch of people would have seen, with the exception of maybe Bury Me Twice, which I think has got a lot of eyes on it on streaming. And then he is doing a movie that I've saw get a little bit of attention already, and I'll be honest with you, don't have high hopes for. It feels a little bit in the vein of not only this movie, but which I didn't hate this movie by any stretch of the imagination. I would say I enjoyed it overall, but there is a vein of horror movies. This one, I would kind of fall into that category that I kind of, we've talked about it a few times on the show. It's the Pooh, Blood and Honey of the Pooh, Blood and Honey ilk, where, and the Punch and Judy or whatever that movie is, where it's like a just take on that, where it's just like low budget horror movies that are taking advantage of recognizable
public domain IP,
either public domain or stuff where the IP rights have just like ran out from a timing perspective. So like next year he's doing a movie which I think is already shot, I would imagine almost in the I would imagine it's in the can at this point, called Steamboat. And it's all about, of course, Screamboat, which is all about, of course, the initial incarnation of Mickey Mouse in the classic, was it Disney's very first cartoon or one of their very first cartoons? It's not their first cartoon. It's the first appearance of the Mickey Mouse character.
Mickey Mouse,
called Steamboat Willie. and this is called Screamboat, and it's roughly based on that, because I guess just in the last couple of years, the however long it is it 100 years or something like that? When once a bit of IP hits 100 years old, it's all rights are off in terms of the trademark of the imagery.
Yeah. It's not even the first one either.
Yeah.
Did you, the Mousetrap from 2024?
Oh, they did it already.
Yeah, it's already been done. I was going to say, Brian, do you remember seeing the trailer for Screamboat when you went and saw Terrifier 3? Because it was on my copy.
It was mine too. That was the first time that it came on my radar, and I was like, I'm going to pay attention to these peanut M&Ms. I don't give a fuck about this. Like, I'm going to open this bag of peanut M&Ms. Did you see it, Anthony? The trailer?
I haven't.
Okay.
No.
I think you would. I mean, you'll have some enjoyment from it because it occurs on the Staten Island ferry. So,
almost the scariest thing that ever happened on Staten Island ferry. Yeah. So, how do you guys feel about these movies?
They're have
mostly
not
garbage.
Yeah, I haven't seen one worth a shit yet, and I actually wouldn't even necessarily. No, I would. I would say this movie, the Mean One, should be thought of in that ilk. I would say this is one of the more fun ones. The Pooh, Blood and Honey movie is like borderline unwatchable. And there's a sequel to it now, which I have not watched. And there's one other one, Steve. Like I said, I watched that Punch one, or which is based on the kind of Punch and Judy British. It's the same people who did like the Killing Tree. The Killing Tree. I always want to call it the Murder Tree. Yeah, it's that same group.
That same fucking director.
Yeah. And it was hot trash.
Yeah, there's Reese Frake Waterfield is his name. But he has a number of these coming out, and he has Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, Pinocchio Unstrung, and Bambi the Reckoning all coming out next.
God awful.
Yeah, just trash. And then I saw another one called Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yes, I did see that recently, which that looks to be at least a little bit more effort put into it. But I might have they might have just tricked me again, because these are just fucking grifters, right? Who are just like taking this stuff and hoping you hit, you get past the 20-minute mark or however long it is on Tubi before they get paid. So it's and these are the same people who did the Dinosaur Hotel movies too, right, Steve? Reese Wake Waterfield or whatever. Which is not a real human, we established.
No. So like Stephen Lamort, I believe, is an American director, and the guy I don't know the guy who's doing the Popeye the Slayer Man, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of those movies, those type of movies under your belt. Yeah. He actually directed like 6 episodes of How I Met Your Mother, which is fucking wacky. And he's directed an episode of The Outer Limits from 2000. So I guess he's a little bit more. Oh my God. He's an actor in the movie Things.
Things?
Yeah, Things from 1993.
What's Things?
Oh, you've never seen?
Is this Things? Is this the like straight to VHS, like the straight to VHS?
Yeah, the doo-doo one.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was like, wait, how does that person that was involved in that have a career? I always
he's an actor in it, so he's not. Yeah.
That movie is one of the more unwatchable movies I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot, because I've watched some real dog shit. Things is among the most unwatchable movies. It's like Sledge or whatever that movie is. That's like, I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel, straight to VHS, not straight to VHS, shot on VHS garbage.
Yeah, shot on video, just trash. Yeah,
interesting. Well, I'll tell you what here's what the draw to this movie is. The Mean One is the great David Howard Thornton. He 100% makes the movie. He is the only reason to watch it. And for those of you who don't know who David Howard Thornton is, where the fuck have you been? Get out from underneath the goddamn rock you're under and embrace Terrifier. Steve does not have the passion that I have for the Terrifier franchise, but he of course plays Art the Clown in Terrifier 1 through 3. And he is tremendous physical actor. And here's the interesting part about this. Here's the sell story. If I was like, my life depends on an elevator speech to get somebody to watch this movie, I would say it's a murderous Grinch. But not only is it a murderous Grinch, it is a murderous version of Jim Carrey's Grinch.
Yeah.
Which makes it 100 times more entertaining. Because David Howard Thornton shares a lot of that same like physical acting prowess. And I'm not saying he's Jim Carrey, but he shares a lot of that same physical acting prowess. It's very impressive. I'm not saying he's doing his best work here. I'm talking about the Terrifier franchise and the other things he does. But he plays, of course, the titular mean one. Now, they obviously don't have the rights to call him the Grinch, and they don't say the Grinch, but they drop an enormous, like almost a nauseating amount of hints and references to, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But David Howard Thornton is acting as Jim Carrey's Grinch, which makes it kind of fun and entertaining and comedic, right? Here's one thing I will say that turned me off about this movie a little bit is it's a pretty ugly movie. It's lit really poorly. And with the exception of a few scenes, it's pretty bad to look at.
Yeah. Instead of day for night, they shot day for winter.
It's confusing. There, sometimes you think it's winter, other times it looks like it's 70 degrees outside. Everything's like, it always is like an overcast day, so everything's like really washed out. It's just a bad looking movie. So here's the setup, right? You have Cindy. Now she is, of course, the proxy for little Cindy Lou Who. And they don't live in Whoville, they live in Newville, so it's a lot of that sort of stuff. Just skirting the IP, right? Essentially Cindy's mom persecuted the Grinch, and he accidentally killed her, so Cindy has issues with Christmas. That's right. Like he, like the Grinch snuck into her house on Christmas Eve. She, did her little Cindy Lou Who thing and gave him like a little plastic trinket Santa Claus necklace. And like melted his heart, but then the mom came downstairs, was like, "Get him away from my child!" And there was a melee. The mom fell and got like, I don't know, some sort of it was like a little nail or something that was part of the Christmas tree. I don't know, just stabbed her through the neck. So Cindy's mom died in this horrific manner on Christmas Eve. So fast forward, like, I don't know what it is, like 25 years or something like that, and Cindy and her dad are going back to spend time. Like, they'd moved away. She had, had basically like, PTSD symptoms as a result of this her entire life. She struggled with it, spent some time in like some, institutionalized to some capacity, I guess. As they're coming back, the dad and Cindy get pulled over on their way back to, Newtown or Newville. And Cindy immediately develops a thing with this local cop who, not unlike Anthony's movie, is a ventriloquist dummy who has recently came to life. He really and truly looks like he's made of wood.
He's a real boy, Brian.
He's a real boy, but he was once made of wood. Dad is like trying to help. He's very supportive. He's trying to get her back in the Christmas spirit and set her up with boys and like just help her life be a little bit more normal. Dad is a lot. The actor who's playing Dad is a lot. And he dies pretty early. So you're like, thank God, I don't have to watch that guy anymore. He's a whole bunch. Also the sheriff that like was there the night that Cindy's mom was killed and is like essentially like talks her out of saying what she thought happened, which was a green guy in a Santa suit kill her mom. He's still there. Obviously he's much older now. And the town now hates Christmas. And there's this ongoing thing about how the new cop, the deputy that she falls in love with is Jewish. And then that keeps coming back around. It's like a repeated joke. I don't know. It's dumb. But, Yeah, Dad's just acting his tits off early, and it's rough. But luckily for us, he gets, like I said, he gets fucked up. So the Grinch attacks their house, as they're decorating for Christmas, fucks the dad up, sticks him through the eye with like I forget if it's a fire poker. It's some sort of like long, sharp object. Yeah. And of course, she sees this happen. So it's the whole thing starting all over again. And of course, no one believes her when she says, a suspiciously Grinch-like character did it. They keep doing this rhyming voiceover, kind of like the voiceover, which was it was Boris Karloff, right? In the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas cartoon animated TV special. And they're doing that, but it's, retelling this weird like retelling of the story, which is, fairly entertaining, I guess. I didn't hate it. Like I said, the time of year, very ambiguous, very inconsistent. At one point, she's just going on a little hike, like in just like spring clothes. Another time it's snowing and they have winter coats on. It's very inconsistent.
Brian, you have to go by the establishing stock footage that they may or may not have paid for.
I will tell you, all of the movies like this, and Anthony, if you've not delved down the rabbit hole as far as Steve and I have on these movies, every single movie, without exception, of this ilk starts with stock footage like that. So that might have been a huge red flag for you. For us, it's just business as usual.
Yeah, just another day.
Yeah. I will say that there's this mayor character, and I think her name's, I didn't write it down. What is it? Mayor Maggie?
McBean.
But it's Maggie McBean or something like that. Anyway, she's pissed off that all Cindy's parents keep getting killed by the Grinch, basically. And but she's a pretty entertaining character, although a terrible actor, kind of an entertaining, cartoonish, mayor character. She's constantly slapping buttons on people, and she only cares about tourist, business in the town. Cindy goes on a photography hike, as one does. And she goes up onto the mountain, onto the Grinch's mountain, unknowingly. She gets startled while on her photography hike, falls into a hole, finds a bunch of IDs of presumably dead people, and then immediately witnesses. So you think like, oh, this is going to be a real gradual thing to her actually seeing the Grinch, and she's going to question her sanity and blah, blah, blah. No. Finds the IDs. 5 seconds later, watches the Grinch attack a couple on the mountain in broad daylight. Before just pelting him with rocks. It's a wild scene. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was having fun at this point. I was having fun.
And does not take a good picture of him at that time.
No, tries to, gets a blurry one. But we see the Grinch, right? The character, David Howard Thornton's character, and the makeup is better than expected for this type of movie. I'll be honest with you. It's not perfect. It does look like he's wearing half a mask. Because you got to have his facial expressions. You got to be able to see the teeth, right. And he, David Howard Thornton, like that's part of why you hire a guy like that. He has this like elastic face, so you got to be able to see it. But they have this like half a mask on him, but it's all painted up pretty good. It looks pretty good. The performance is great, and especially once we get into the comedic stuff, he is fucking hell. Like this movie without David Howard Thornton sucks shit. Like it really and truly sucks horrible shit, and it's made moderately enjoyable, and it's 100% because of his performance. You can just turn your head when he's not on screen, honestly.
Just look down at your phone. It's all screen time. It's all second screen time. Great
movie to just look at Instagram while you're watching, and then when you hear something Grinchy happening, look up and watch that scene. You're gonna have a blast because David Howard Thornton is a fucking treat. The rest of the movie, you can miss it. There is a couple. I won't say that. I'll say 90% of the other scenes because this is pretty fun. There's a bus full of drunk Santas. It's one of those like Santa bar crawls kind of thing happening, right? And the Santas of this bus full of drunk Santas, they're hammered. They're just screaming swears in the bus. Like it's just like a bunch of children, like literal small children drunk. That's what they're acting like. And they're just screaming swear words. They're like, our parents aren't here. But they're all like 35. And one of them just immediately sexually assaults a server. And she knocks him out. In a weird scene, she knocks him unconscious. And then, but just acts like that's an everyday thing that happens. Maybe it's a rough roadhouse type of bar. I don't know, but it's like closing. Right. And then when she just doesn't pay attention to him, he gets dragged away and is murdered in like the walk-in with an icicle, I guess. And then this is when the Grinch comes in, and he's got a big candy cane. And he takes the next 5 minutes to massacre probably 12 people in just cartoonish fashion. And it's so fun. The whole thing is so fun. This is the peak of the movie. He does a double foot head stomp on like a woman. He puts another woman in a meat grinder. And then he's just doing all this wacky stuff. Right. And then there's a scene that made me, I lulled at this after doing all this stuff. And this is a bit straight out of the Jim Carrey Grinch that was improvised by Jim Carrey, which is, I don't really love that movie, but there's one scene where he like is just smashing stuff up and he goes up and just like knocks a stool over. And it was like, it's like a famous improvised scene. He basically does something like or akin to that, where after doing all this horrible murderous damage, he walks up. There is a cute little 4-sided gingerbread house underneath like a trivet type of thing. He picks it up, smells it, like wafts it, smells it, and then hurries up and smashes it a bunch with his hand. It's just such a funny bit.
It's so silly.
Yeah. It's just so, it's just Looney Tunes.
Yeah. There's also in this scene an amazing pratfall of one of the Santa ladies is up on a table and he comes and sweeps her legs out from beneath her.
Oh, yeah. And she does. Like, it's a great fall. Yeah.
Yeah. She takes this ass over end fucking fall where she falls and hits the table and then falls over backwards. And I was like, that's like a real good stunt fall and again, you know, we talked about this before, but like this movie was coming on the heels of Brian and I watching fucking Pooh, Blood and Honey, as well as The Killing Tree. And both of those movies put no fucking effort into anything.
No, so this movie is, I mean, light years ahead of that, which is really a testament to how horrible those movies are.
Yeah. And so I thought this film got unfairly maligned. Like, it's still fucking bad. But the thing that sets this movie apart from those films is you can imagine this would be a really good film if they injected $5 million into it.
Oh, yeah. Would have been a blast. And here's why I know there are a lot of stunt people in this movie. So like Crystal Martin, who plays Cindy, is a stunt woman, like by trade. And she's like an athlete. Like you can kind of see when they have like the montage, like she's actually doing all those exercises. Like she's in real life, actually like in amazing physical shape. And she is a stunt woman. And I imagine some of the other people in that big fight scene were probably stunt women or stunt people, friends of hers, right? Like industry friends of hers or something like that. And she's not a bad actor. I'm not going to say she's good. I'm not going to say her performance is great, but she does not phone it in, and she plays it super straight. So I thought it was pretty good. And Chase Mullins, who plays Deputy Burke, who is the real boy come to life, he can't help that he looks like a real boy he can't help that he looks like a ventriloquist come to life. He just seems like a boyish, charming boyish, cop. And it honestly works because, like I said, Cindy is like pretty formidable. You know what I mean? Like I said, she's like very athletic and like kind of like you could look at them and go like, yeah, she would beat the shit out of him. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a fun little juxtaposition there.
Yeah. I will say the scene with the drunken Santas almost felt like, because it is such the idea of the movie encapsulated in one scene, really.
Yeah.
It almost felt like this is the scene that we're gonna shoot, and then through this we're gonna shop this movie around to get funding to shoot everything else.
Totally.
Like we're gonna, throw everything that we have at this one scene. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened, but it just seems like because it is such an encapsulation of just the idea itself of this movie, of this evil murderous Grinch, that it's like, they really went for it on that scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they put a lot of their eggs in one basket. There was another good one where he like sneaks into a diner and he does the little like crawl on his fingers and toes, which is just like a Jim Carrey, 100% Jim Carrey bit. But it's really fun. And like I said, the costume is, they pull it off, reasonably well. But anyway, so yeah, the Grinch does try to break into Cindy's house. And then we get introduced to Doc, which is his full name is Doc Zeus, which is like, Jesus Christ, guys.
Dr. Zeus.
Got it. But they call him Doc in the movie. He saves her. And so they go drinking, and he's like the lore keeper. So she tells him all about it. And the Grinch, we learned that the Grinch had cut his wife in half. Basically, which is a fun sentence to say. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And they keep doing this gag where they keep like, oh man, I didn't write down the details of it, but the server keeps saying like, it keeps like
Mr. Finch.
Mr. Finch, yeah, it's like Mike Finch or whatever instead of saying Grinch. So she keeps doing the like yell over top of the sentence right before they say something that is against the trademark.
Yeah, because unlike these other movies, the Grinch is not in the public
correct
domain.
Right, so this
is an unauthorized horror version of it. Yeah,
the deputy does ultimately go and find the Grinch's angry room where all the wallets were or whatever, and so he's hot on the trail now. We get a training montage after I guess Cindy has like a sexy dream and decides to have a training montage. I don't know. And Doc is helping her out, being prepared. I did like this bit where she has like a dummy hanging from a tree that she's like punching and kicking. And she's dressed it up exactly like the Grinch, like green with the Santa suit and stuff, which is like just a stupid bit. This is the diner scene. This is where he scurries in on his fingers and toes, and then just hacks up the cook or whatever with a cleaver. The mayor, who's made to be pretty hateable up to this point, she does get decapitated with the trunk of a Kia Sorrento, which is a unique sentence. Also, the deputy ends up figures out that the sheriff and the mayor have been covering up the Grinch's annual murder spree for years, right? With the intention of, economic recovery of the town. So we also learn that like he's attracted, the Grinch basically shows up when there are Christmas decorations and Christmassy things happening. And that's why they've kind of put the kibosh on that in town for so long. So the deputy, he goes to the mountains to hunt the Grinch. Cindy and Doc go after him. Simultaneously, Sheriff also goes up after him. He kind of has a moment of moral clarity, I guess maybe. And they're attacked. The sheriff ends up getting killed. I think he gets killed off screen or something. It's nothing too crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of set up like Alone in the Dark, where like he's in the cave using his muzzle flash to light up the space. And like, again, if this was a better movie, you could actually make that like a really effective scene, but they can't. So you just move on. You just move past it. You don't think about it.
They can't, so it won't. So they can't, so they won't, and they don't. Deputy Doofy is ultimately injured as well. I think he gets like stabbed in the leg or some bullshit. Then the last 10 minutes of this movie, 15 minutes, is just so many Grinch-related catchphrases, like "time to roast this beast," and then Cindy. I do like that Cindy goes like full Laurie Strode in 2018 Halloween, and basically like just sets her house up as a trap to bring him to her. So she lures him with decorations and like lies in waiting. And then Cindy and Doc kind of ambush him. So Doc is sniping through the window. Cindy has a candy cane painted like pistol grip 12 gauge for some reason. In fact, she has like a bunch of Christmas themed weaponry. She's got like a Glock and like grenades that are like Christmas bulbs, and it goes pretty bonkers, which is fun. It's a Killer Grinch movie, for Christ's sake. You gotta swing big. And so you get the big final fight. Cindy ends up finding that she kind of gets the better of him after this big, back and forth, injuring each other and, everything. And she sees that he still has the necklace on that she gave him that night, when she was a little girl. And you get another, why, Santa? Why? Which is, of course, a throwback to the cartoon. And then Cindy just all at once like recalls her mom's death was an accident and then forgives him, which is wild, being that he's also murdered her dad in cold blood and a bunch of other people. So like that wasn't the only murder, but she forgives him. And in that moment, of course, the heart grows 3 sizes, the pinnacle of the special, but instead he flips over and it's like he jumped on a grenade kind of thing, and his heart explodes in his chest. Yeah, which I thought was I did not see that coming. To be honest with you, maybe it was predictable for some, but I did not see it coming. I thought it was fun.
I thought they were going to do something in like she Mortal Kombat's a fucking grenade into his heart and then blows it up like that way. I thought that's what they were going to go for, but
but he kind of like jumps on the grenade that is his own heart, which is kind of the implication is that he knows what's going to happen and takes his lumps, as it were. So the town is cool now. It becomes like a tourist attraction because of like the mean one becomes like the, kind of like a Sasquatch or a Mothman type of phenomenon for the town. So they get all this tourist traffic and, they have this like Hallmark movie moment. And then, the like ending is like, but is he dead? And it's like, I think he's dead. And then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's dead. And I think I don't care that much.
I don't care. I don't care. They just do like a thing at the end where it's like the most vague, slightly open-ended, but not committal to anything.
Yeah.
Like it's the end, or is it? And then you like hear him laugh. You're like, he just blew up, and then it's like, all right. Yeah, so they could be like, Grinch. If for some reason this caught on, they would go like, oh, maybe we make Grinch Jr., son of Grinch.
Yeah.
So
can't write yourself out of the sequel.
So there we go. And that's it. And
the Halloween franchise figured it out, though, even when you do.
It doesn't matter. Here's what we've learned from the Halloween franchise is it's impossible to write yourself out of the sequel because you can just write yourself back in.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can't undo. If a guy's got a mask on, it could always just not be him.
Right. It can always just not be him. That's what you learn from that's what you learn from H2O. It can just not be him.
Yeah. And they kill him 100 times in the most, the only one to ever actually do it where they're like, we are going to take his mask off. We're going to watch his face go into a grinder. They did that in Ends, but that's almost a joke. It's almost a self-referential joke of like, that's the thing that every person said to do right up to that point. Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about the Halloween franchise. I can be very easily baited into talking about the Halloween franchise, obviously. But overall, the mean one, it's fine. I think, I don't take back what I said. I think you just put it on in the background, look at your phone, scroll through your emails, do whatever you're going to do, and then look up occasionally when David Howard Thornton is on screen, and you're going to have a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Look up when he's on screen, and that's it. Everything else will hit your brain, and either you'll comprehend it or not. I do like the subplot of, they're trying to cover up Christmas, because it's kind of a fun twist that like, oh, Christmas no longer exists for the Who's in Whoville.
Yeah.
They're trying to take it away. I also, you glossed over my favorite one-liner.
Oh no.
From Cindy. And it's when she racks the shotgun and says, "You're a dead one." That fucking rules.
Yeah. It doesn't, but sure. It doesn't roll at all. Okay.
No, that one rules. It's the way they shoehorn in the Who song, and Dr. Zeus says "Lahu Vorace" or whatever, motherfucker. Yeah. That one, I was just like, nope, you took it too far. You're a dead one. Fucking rules. Lahu Vorace, motherfucker, bad. Crap.
Yeah. I mean, it after like the the 14th reference to the original, we're like, we get it. He's the Grinch, and you can't say Grinch. We get it.
Yeah. I think that's a little like, I think one of my issues, it was fine. It feels, the gimmick wears off pretty early for a movie that's not that long. It's only an hour and 33 minutes. It becomes tedious, like probably halfway through the second act, of just like it constantly reminding you that this is a Grinch horror movie, I think. Yeah. And how they've basically written this, they've basically written every scene with that in mind, when it's like, all right, I get it.
We're going to be clever. We're clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, without David Howard Thornton, this is a total piece of horseshit. I mean, I get why Dan picked it for me, because I am such a fan of Terrifier and David Howard Thornton. And seems fairly clear from this discussion that I liked it the most of anybody. And so for that reason, despite your intentions, Dan, I think it was a thoughtful gift, and I wish to say thank you and Merry Christmas.
You've been backfired, Dan.
And suck on that. All right, so we have we've talked about 3 different movies, and now we get to vote on them. And typically speaking, now, ultimately, and happy Festivus to you, Dan, for those who celebrate. So typically what we do, but it is up to Anthony's discretion, is we typically vote in the order that we discuss the movies. But like I said, it is ultimately your discretion to pick the order in which we vote. So I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Good question. Didn't think about this. I'm going to say, I'm going to go first and pick mine. And then we'll go Steve, and then you, Brian.
So for our listeners at home, this is how this works. Typically speaking, we all pick our movie as, our favorite one of the 3. Now, that doesn't have to be the case, and in this instance, a little different, because these movies were picked for us. We did not pick these movies, but typically speaking, we pick our favorite movie, and if it's our movie, that's fine, and then it goes to second place. But we will wait and see what happens here, because sometimes that gets switched up with the secret Satan on account of we didn't pick these movies. So I'll shut up. Anthony, what's your vote? What are you thinking?
I'm going to go with my movie first, Better Watch Out. I think it's just a very effective, well-paced movie, pretty simple idea. As I said, the first time I watched it, I didn't know what the twist was going to be, of that little shit being as much of a little shit as he is. So I think, I think that movie works as well as it could. The second movie, for my second place, so there's things I like about both. For Deadly Games, or I'm going to call my particularly favorite version of the title, 3615 Code Pere Noel. I do like the action movie aspect of it. I like him, the kid, the training montage of that kid being, what he thinks is an action star of the 80s. The tonal shifts don't work in its favor. His mullet does, but the killing of the dog doesn't work in its favor. For the mean one, I do like the performance of the Grinch. It's everything around him does not work. From, as we mentioned, it doesn't look very good. There's not a whole lot of particularly interesting characters. Like, in terms of the lighting, one of the scenes that really stuck out to me that we didn't mention was a scene at the bar with the main characters. Just like, there's just one spotlight that just made everything just flat, sitcom looking, and it was very distracting to me. And it probably wasn't even the worst lit scene in the film, but it was just for whatever reason. And like I said, the gimmick kind of wears off. Having said that, I think I'm going to pick for my second place 3615 code Pere Noel. I think it's more effective of what it wants to do, tonal shifts aside. I think it's an interesting looking movie from time to time, especially with kind of those exterior, they're like model shots of this castle. I think some of the settings, the set pieces are very interesting. And overall, the Santa Claus is a very creepy dude. And then my third obviously would be the mean one.
Fair enough. All right, Steven, what are you thinking?
I am also going to stick with 3615 Pere Noel as my first pick, even though it was, my first time watch. Yeah, it's really a fucking film of craftsmanship, but not so many put together ideas. Like, the ideas don't gel as well as they could, but it's a movie of big ideas. So I like that about it. And, I want to watch it again just to kind of see if I can pick up on other stuff that they're trying to mimic, or other ideas that they had that they just, maybe are a little half baked, but maybe I could see more into it. The other two films, I've watched both of these films twice now. Like, I've never seen Deadly Games before, but now I have seen both Better Watch Out and The Mean One twice. The Mean One is wearing thin on me at this point, but so is the ending of Better Watch Out. They're both just kind of wearing thin on me. And I'm like, I don't think I want to watch either in the next 5 years again. Yeah. I've had enough.
It's fair.
So yeah, I like the gags. I like the pratfalls in The Mean One, but the audio is some of the worst fucking audio.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the audio. It's really bad too.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's inconsistent. It doesn't match the action on screen a lot of the time because they're just pulling from a stock library again. If you don't have an actual composer and you're just pulling from a stock library, you're just crossing your fingers and hoping it fucking works in the end. Just like, please. So yeah, I think it's going to be the performance of Luke, who I think should be named Braden. His name should be Braden or Aiden. He does
feel like a Braden or a Caden or an Aiden, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be his performance that just barely tips it over the line. Because again, on this second watch, knowing what the twist is, you kind of see like the bits of coldness and the psychopathy on his, in his performance, even leading into, before the twist happens. So it's a good performance, and I think that carries it. And also, Better Watch Out does look better as a Christmas film.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my second.
I'm a little torn here because I cannot, in all good faith, and I didn't pick the movie, so I feel justified in saying I don't think I can, in all good faith, pick The Mean One as my number one pick. like I said, I probably liked it more than anybody, and I still didn't like it very much. It was obviously it was a bad movie. If the audio was good, if it was better to look at, if there was more like Christmassy vibes and stuff like it would have helped so much. But it just felt like this weekend project kind of thing, more movie than anything. I mean, I'm being a little harsh on it. And like I said, there was really only one redeeming thing, was some of the action sequences and some of the stunts and stuff were fun. And then David Howard Thornton's performance. I mean, that was really it. So, I mean, both the other movies, although not perfect, have so many more redeeming qualities that I cannot in all good conscience, call out that as me preferring that. So what that means is ultimately either way, I was going to pick the winner here in this situation. So it really is 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Yeah, as much as I like I think what is ultimately be the it's a pretty clear cut one for me. As much as I liked the premise for Deadly Games, and I like the performance I really liked most of the performances, it really led me right to the precipice of something super exciting and wacky and fun, and then just like doesn't really deliver. But it does deliver on some like unexpectedly creepy, unexpectedly violent things that you're just like, wait, what? Why did we do that? Which is fun because for fans of the show, and Steve will attest to this, I almost value unpredictability above all else. And Deadly Games is unpredictable, but Better Watch Out has a fun twist as well. Even if you see it coming, I don't think you see it to that extent. I mean, it's such a better looking movie. It's a better written movie. The performances are strong. I'm going to pick Better Watch Out as well. As much as it pains me to once again concede defeat to a guest. Steve and I have just been this whole year been getting our asses handed to us by guests.
Guests and patrons have been just
whipping our ass. I do have to say my pick is Deadly Games, or not Deadly Games. I'm sorry, Better Watch Out. That would have been funny if total heel turn. I just go,
no take backs.
No, it's Better Watch Out. So what that means is, once again, our guest is taking home that son of a bitchin' championship strap for our Secret Satan Showdown here in December, which means Anthony, to the victor go the spoils. He is able to pick our punishment movie for next week. So if you have something in mind, great. If you don't, we can surprise the listeners for next week. How do you feel taking home that strap?
I'm 2-0 so far on the show. I'm feeling like
it's the beginning of like an Undertaker type streak here.
I'm like Charlotte Flair. Every time she comes back from injury, she takes home a championship.
The championship.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't have an idea yet. I didn't prepare for a win, so I'll have to think about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Right.
All right.
And of course, you're welcome on that episode as well. So,
of course, you can come on and gloat as much as you want if you so desire.
If my schedule allows with this child.
Yeah. All right, guys, that was fun. Appreciate it. Thank you, Anthony. Once again, tell the boils and ghouls at home where they can find. They call this a movie podcast and any other projects yins are working on over there.
Sure, of course. Thanks, guys, for having me on. It was a lot of fun. But we are They Call This a Movie. You can find us on all your podcatchers at They Call This a Movie. Just look for us there. TikTam Pod on Threads and Instagram, and soon to be Blue Sky. We are still on X, but we don't use it anymore. And They Call This a Movie on TikTok. And TikTamPod@gmail.com too. But nobody uses who emails podcasts. I don't know.
Weirdly enough, we do get some emails. I don't know. Yeah. Some of them
every now and then.
Every now and then we get some of them emails. All right. A lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Steve, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this sumbitch up?
Oh, man, it's time for happy holidays and all that. And we got irons in the fire for what's going on the rest of the month. And I got some ideas. I've seen some things, and I have some ideas, but we'll see what happens.
Things and stuff, guys. Things and stuff. All right. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Anthony.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Merry, Merry Christmas. Don't change, kids, stay with us. Stay a little, Jesus. Hold on to my hand. It's not a long way to fly, you know. Don't fly in vain. It's so hard anyway to become a man. Happy birthday, Christmas. Welcome